Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of council. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof this evening? I see none, so we'll move right into the regular agenda. Approval of the council minutes. Looking for a mover and seconder for the council meeting held November 27th. Councillor Berbicki and Councillor Dunn. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Motion carries. And also a mover and seconder to receive the minutes of the special council meeting held November 22nd. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Hammond. Discussion on that motion. All in favor? And carried. Were there any business items arising out of those minutes? I see none. So we'll move, pardon me, before we go into public meetings, there is an introduction that is going to be made by our CAO, Mr. Neufeld.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, it's my pleasure to introduce our new Manager of Economic Development, James Cox. James is originally from the village of Dorchester and previously worked in economic development and strategic planning for the town of Goderich, also the Chatham-Kent Police Service and the town of Richmond Hill, and the municipality of Marks-Day-Warren. James holds a Master's of Public Administration from the University of Ottawa and an Honours Bachelor degree from Queen's University. So join me in welcoming James Cox. Welcome, James.
I know we had a brief introduction ourselves today, and I said to you, we have lots of work for you to do. So, and I know you said you're prepared. So we're looking forward to that, and council having an opportunity on an individual basis to get to meet you and know you better. So welcome to our municipality. Did you want to address council at all, or it's entirely up to you? All right, well, come on up here to the microphone, and you can see the little button there you get to push. And
5 minutes, right?
Yeah, 5 minutes, yeah.
I'll be much briefer than that. I'll just thank council for the opportunity to come and live in your community. My family and I are very excited to settle in Leamington, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone here and in the future.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. Welcome. Okay, so then let's move right into public meetings. The first one is a meeting regarding drainage, and I'm going to assume Ms. Marentet's taking us through.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Before I get into tonight's report, I just want to introduce that Tony Peralta from Peralta Engineering will be here to answer any technical questions you may have, and also Bert Ramley, the chair of the Chatham Drainage Board, is also here because he will be sitting in on the Court of Revision. He's sitting right here in the front row. Okay. So tonight what we're asking for is that council adopt the engineer's report prepared by NJ Peralta Engineering, dated November 24th, 2017, pursuant to Section 76 of the Drainage Act, and which provides for an updated maintenance schedule on the South Dales drain. I want to make that notation because the drain name was incorrect on your agenda. Okay. Bylaw 9117, authorizing the report be presented to council for a first and second reading, and that we mail a copy of the bylaw and the notice of Court of Revision to each of the affected landowners. A request for maintenance on the South Dales drain was received back in 2013. The request was for brushing of the banks from the Leamington municipal boundaries, then upstream to Mercia Road 8. A lengthy review of the drain files concluded that the South Dales drain was last updated under an engineer's report dated July 8, 1910. Although this report is over 100 years old, there is no need for a new plan or profile, as they may remain the same to serve the watershed. A number of changes have taken place within the drainage area that will impact the 1910 assessment schedule. Properties have been subdivided, boundaries have been modified, new drains have been constructed, watershed limits have changed, drainage patterns have been altered, and land uses have been changed. All of the above changes will be affected in this new schedule. We also note at this time that we received permission from the Ontario Ministry of Ag and Food to complete the much-needed maintenance on the drain prior to the preparation of this report, since there were flooding issues and trees down creating more damage to the drain. it was also impassable in some areas. So we didn't want to create more damage while we're trying to get a correct report. So we did receive that permission to go in and do those repairs. The municipality of Chatham-Kent has remained informed of the subject report and the maintenance work and requested to be part of this report in order to update a portion of their watershed. You'll notice on the plan, right at the bottom corner, Kent Road 1 is the divide of the municipal drain and the natural water course. So once it hits the east side of Kent Road 1, which is in the vicinity of the Wheatley Water Tower, it's a natural water course. So between that part and the Wheatley-Leamington boundary is approximately a half kilometer or so. So Chatham asked, since you're doing your section of the report, can you fix ours as well? So we agreed, and it's added into this report. During his investigation, the engineer noted the presence of a number of access crossings. Typically, these crossings are noted within the engineer's report and on the associated plans and profiles. But in this case, the existing 1910 report had no specific crossing locations, but rather there was 8 crossings. Administration therefore concluded that the access crossings are outside of the bylaw and have no legal status. I will confirm that Tony has made notation that there is a couple culverts that would be able to be replaced under future maintenance cost sharing, as long as we hired an engineer to review that culvert. So this report remains silent as far as crossings and cost sharings. This report was identified in the 2017 budget. Administration also notes that the maintenance schedule of assessment created by the engineer used an arbitrary number of $50,000, which is common practice in the reports. I would like to point out, to date, the costs for the project was in the range of $15,000, and the maintenance work on the drain was $90,000, of which the farmland would be grantable for their share of the project. We also note that there's 2 municipal roads assessed into this project, which are Mercia Road 6 and Mercia Road 7, at a 6% cost sharing. The end of my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from council to staff? Councillor Verbeke?
Worthy Mayor, thank you. I'm just amazed. If there's any other documents in this building that need to be saved, because every time I want to look, they got lost in the move. I think they should be in your hands, since it's been 107 years old. But I have no other questions other than it's about time, and I'm surprised it didn't get done sooner. So I'd like to move the recommendation.
Well, it's a public meeting, so I'll ask you to hold off on your motion for the time being. Are there any other questions from, okay, so then it being a public meeting, if there's anyone in the audience that wish to address council on this matter, I'd ask you to come forward, introduce yourself, and state your thoughts. All right, hearing none. Is there actually a recommendation in here tonight on this one, then? 4, okay, there they are. So then, Councillor Verbeke, you're wishing to move ahead on that recommendation, and supported by Councillor Jacobs. Discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor of that motion then? And motion carries. Thank you very much. Yeah. What's the matter? No. So we'll move on to the next public meeting. It's a planning issue, and Ms. Yablonsky is going to take us through that. Some evenings. Yep.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an application for a combined official plan amendment and rezoning for the property on the corner of Erie Street South and Parkdale Avenue. This is the southwest corner. The property comprises 291 and 295 Erie Street South and the 2 vacant lots to the immediate west. Tonight, we're here for the required statutory public meeting that is required under the Planning Act for an official plan amendment and/or rezoning. So we have sent out public notices to property owners within a 120-meter radius of the property in question, and all of those property owners have been invited to attend or to provide something in writing to be addressed during the further review of this application. There is no recommendation on your agenda, and there's no bylaw on your agenda tonight as well. The applicant is, the owners of the property, first of all, are M. Pennell and J. DeMilo, and we're dealing with another gentleman as the applicant representing this particular 2 owners of the property. The applicant is proposing to assemble the property, so we have 4 lots in question, and they are proposing to assemble all 4 of those lots in order to develop them as one. The property has a total lot area of 2,203.24 square meters, which is about 23,700 square feet. They have a frontage of just over 34 meters along Erie Street South and a depth of about 64 meters on Parkdale Avenue. The property on Erie Street South, so that would be at 291 and 295 Erie Street South, those 2 lots are designated under the official plan as Erie Street South Commercial District. The 2 vacant lots on Parkdale, which are right behind the 2 properties on Erie Street South, are designated residential in the official plan. Under the residential designation, there's a wide variety of residential uses that are permitted, as well as uses that are complementary to the residential activities that would take place. Things like schools and parks would be permitted. However, because the applicant is proposing specifically a drive-through restaurant, that use would not be permitted in the residential designation. Thus, they have proposed to change the designation to Erie Street South Commercial District. At present, 3 of the 4 lots are vacant at present. There is a single detached dwelling in the northeast corner of the site, known as 291 Erie Street South. My understanding is that that house is vacant at this time and will be removed from the site or demolished should the application move forward. To the north and west of the subject property are single detached dwellings, both along Parkdale Avenue and Parkdale Place. There's also a hotel and a commercial shopping plaza further to the north on the same side of Erie. Slightly further to the west are several multiple residential dwellings that front onto Shirk Street. To the south of the site directly is the Bank of Montreal. Then a little further south is another single detached dwelling and another multiple residential dwelling that's on the corner of Coronation and Erie. Across Erie Street South to the east is a mix of shopping center commercial uses. We have a wide variety of commercial across Erie, including Walmart, Canadian Tire, several grocery stores, and various other retail and service commercial uses. There are also a number of drive-through restaurants on the other side as well. This particular section of Erie Street South is designated as an arterial road in our official plan. It comprises 2 lanes in both directions with a center turning lane. There is a signalized intersection directly to the south of the site that provides direct access to the Bank of Montreal and to the shopping center on the opposite side of Erie Street. Parkdale Avenue has been reconstructed this year. They've got separated storm and sanitary sewers now, with new sidewalks and pavement. This section of Erie also has separated sewers, and there's sidewalks on both sides of Erie in this area. As I previously indicated, the applicant is proposing to consolidate the 4 lots in order to develop them together for purposes of a drive-through restaurant. The site plan that we've been reviewing is still in draft stages, and that particular site plan is showing access and egress to the site from Parkdale Avenue, as well as right in and right out only onto Erie Street South. There is an 8-space drive-through lane. The queue for the drive-through starts in the southwest corner of the site and runs along the southerly lot line to the order board, which would be approximately in the center of the site on the south side of the building. That would be abutting the Bank of Montreal site. An outdoor patio is also proposed for the east side of the building on the Erie Street south side of the property. There is on-site parking proposed for 24 vehicles, including two of them are barrier-free spaces, and there will be 5 bicycle parking spaces provided on the site as well. The property is subject to site plan control, and we are in receipt of an application for site plan approval. The site plan is in the process of being reviewed by the various municipal departments. There have been a number of changes that have occurred in the recent past, and it is possible that we could have a few more changes as that review continues. The applicant is proposing a site-specific commercial zoning category in order to be able to occupy the site with a drive-through restaurant. And in that category, they're proposing zoning relief for the number of parking spaces, the amount of landscaped open space, and the interior side yard setback, all of which are slightly less than what the bylaw permits. There is a possibility there could be more zoning relief required. Again, we would know for sure once the site plan has been completely reviewed. As I indicated earlier, the Planning Act does require a public meeting. We did give public notice, both by mail and by way of a sign on the site. The applicant, or the neighbors are given an opportunity to attend here tonight in order to speak to council to let you know of the concerns that they may have, or if they're in favor, they're able to let you know of that as well. We in turn are able, as staff, to take those concerns back and be able to deal with those. There's always the possibility there could be changes to the plans as a result, and we could bring those back to you at another meeting. The depths of the lands in the Erie Street South commercial designation actually vary quite greatly. I included in my report as figure 2 and one of the schedules to our official plan, just to give you an idea of which lands are designated Erie Street South Commercial District. And you'll see that quite often it varies depending on the ownership of the property and also depending on the use. In this case, the applicant is basically trying to create a parcel that is of a size that can be developed with a commercial use. To put it simply, he's proposing to extend the Erie Street South Commercial District just to the west in order to encompass those 2 vacant lots. Under, under the commercial policies of the official plan, it states that the general goal of the commercial districts is to offer a variety of shopping environments, and that new development in these districts is to maintain a high standard of construction, such that these areas are visually and aesthetically pleasing areas in which to shop. Further commercial development in the existing commercial districts is encouraged, as is further expansion of existing commercial uses. The Erie Street South Commercial District is to be recognized as a developing and expanding commercial district, which will attract large-scale commercial development, primarily in a shopping center or plaza format. The commercial policies also state that the Erie Street South Commercial District is to continue to expand and develop to serve not only local residents, but also shoppers from other municipalities. The proposed drive-through restaurant does conform to those commercial policies under our official plan. However, there are still a number of other official plan criteria that need to be satisfied in order for the properties to be redesignated to the Erie Street South Commercial District. More specifically, the criteria that need to be considered include the need for the proposed use, the extent to which the existing areas in the proposed categories are developed, and the nature and adequacy of such existing development, the physical suitability of the land for the proposed use, the location of the area under consideration with respect to adequacy of existing and proposed highway system, convenience and accessibility of site for vehicular and pedestrian traffic and traffic safety, and adequacy of water supply, sewage disposal facilities, and other municipal services, compatibility of proposed use with uses in adjoining areas, the impact of the proposed use on surrounding areas with respect to possible depreciating or deteriorating effects, the potential effect of the proposed use on the financial position of the municipality, the effect of the proposed use in relation to the intent and implementing regulations of the Environmental Protection Act, the regulations of the local conservation authority that has jurisdiction, compliance with the general development policies and specific and relevant land use policies under the official plan, as well as the regulations under the zoning bylaw. And lastly, conformity with the county official plan and consistency with the provincial policy statement. There are still some of these items that we need a little bit more information in order to be able to say it conforms to these policies. A number of these are in conformity at this time. I've gone into more detail in that regard in my report. It's the opinion of planning that the proposed amendment to extend the official plan, the Erie Street South Commercial District under the official plan to the west by 2 lots will definitely create a commercial parcel of a size that can be more appropriately developed. Notwithstanding that, there's still some issues that need to be addressed. Up until last Friday, we were still at a crossroads with respect to the traffic impact study. Excuse me, it's my understanding that there has been some movement in that regard. I believe Alan will be able to answer any questions in that regard. I understand that based on another minor change to the traffic impact study, that they are both on the same page in terms of the appropriateness of the data in the traffic impact study. In addition to the OPA, the official plan amendment, the rezoning is also required, and the rezoning is required for all of the 4 lots. At present, the property is entirely zoned R1, which is basically a single detached residential category. And a single detached dwelling is not ideal for this particular location on Erie Street. So the applicants are proposing to change the zoning to an appropriate commercial category that would permit a variety of uses, but in particular a drive-through restaurant on the subject lands. As I indicated previously, as part of their application, they did ask for relief for several reductions. The first was a reduction in the on-site parking. The bylaw does require 30 parking spaces based on the size of the drive-through restaurant that's being proposed, and they are proposing 24, including the 2 barrier-free. The second one was a reduction to the amount of on-site landscaped open space. The bylaw requires 30%, and they're proposing 20%. And they also indicated that they'd like a reduction to the required interior side yard setback, which would be the side yard that abuts the bank property to the south, so the south side yard. The bylaw requires a 4.5 meter setback, and they're proposing 3.5 meters on that side. There is at least one other regulation that will need relief under the zoning bylaw, and that is a section that actually prohibits a drive-through on a property that abuts a residential zone. Because the property to the immediate west on Parkdale is in a residential zone, that would mean that without relief from the zoning bylaw, you would not be able to have a drive-through on this property or the bank property if it was being developed at this time as well. So we know there is one on the bank property to the south. However, my understanding is that predates the current regulation under our bylaw. Lastly, there is a section of our official plan that outlines a number of criteria that are to be satisfied if you're rezoning a property to a commercial zone. These include as follows. So where deemed necessary, the applicant has prepared a market potential study to justify the proposed use. Secondly, municipal services have to be available to the property and have sufficient capacity. Third, no serious traffic problems will result from the proposed use. Fourth, the applicant has made reasonable efforts to obtain available space in areas already designated commercial, or has demonstrated why it's not feasible to locate in these areas. And lastly, the proposed use will not adversely affect the existing adjacent uses. The applicant's consultant has provided us with a planning justification report. We received an updated version of that this evening, and I haven't had a chance to look at it in any great detail at this point, but I'm told that all these items are being addressed in that study. The traffic impact study and stormwater management plans have also been submitted and are still under review and not finalized. The stormwater management plans are being reviewed under the site plan review process. So as I said at the beginning, we're here tonight for the public meeting. We do not have a recommendation on the agenda for you this evening. We'd like to hear from the neighbors, and if there are any concerns, we'd like to be able to see if those concerns can be addressed. I should point out, we did hear from two particular property owners. One gentleman, his name is Ronald Blaine. He's the owner of 19 Parkdale. He did submit a letter to us. He indicated he would not be available to attend tonight. So I'll read his letter to you. It says, ladies and gentlemen.
Heather, actually, we've got the copy
you
of the
do?
letter, yeah,
Oh,
in
good,
our packet,
perfect.
so we're all good with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. We also had a gentleman who attended the counter. However, he did not provide us with anything in writing. He did not leave his name either. So he said he would be here this evening, so I'm anticipating that he probably will speak for himself tonight. So the next step for us would be to work with, or continue to work with the developer and his consultants and the other municipal departments to address all the outstanding issues that remain. After that, we plan to bring back another report to council with a recommendation, which would include all outstanding issues and any potential relief that's required under the zoning bylaw. Because as I indicated previously, there's a possibility there could be some more that we'll be able to determine during the site plan review process. Re-notification to any of the neighbors who would like to be kept informed is the norm for us as well. I did see there is a sign-in sheet by the door, so if anybody is interested in continuing to be notified, we would be pleased to do that if they provide us with their name and address. We have looked at some dates for this to return to council, provided that we get everything that's outstanding and all issues are cleaned up. We will be in a position to bring it back as promptly as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from council? None? Nope. Okay, so then, being a public meeting, the stage is yours. So anyone in the audience that would like to address council, please come forward, and there's a microphone on here. There's a button for you to push. I just need your name and address, and then you can share your thoughts.
My name is Janet Reeb. I live at 17 Parkdale, which is farther down the road. But since some of the things she mentioned, she brought up, which I thought at first might be jumping ahead of the schedule. I do personally have no issue considering all the commercial development around, the rezoning, but that is definitely not the picture we got in the mail, because it says the proposed restaurant name on it. And as a result of that, actually, that same restaurant has one sitting on Tecumseh Road in Windsor in front of Home Depot on a much smaller footprint, and they do a great business. My issue is we have that road, if you're going north to make a left-hand turn onto Parkdale, there's one spot. There's one in the left-hand turn lane. Going south, if you want to go towards Food Basics or whatever, you've maybe got 2.5 spaces to get into that center turn lane. And on top of that, trying to make a left-hand turn either out of Parkdale or coming from where Lakeside Bakery from Walmart is, unless you're doing it at 7 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night, good luck. Because even a right-hand turn is very difficult. It's where they have the proposed driveway, the main driveway in and out, is going to create a big hassle on that road. We have a number of seniors that live on that road, my father included, who lives with me, and he's had a mild stroke, and he walks every day, and that's going to make it difficult for him. That street is actually very busy with foot traffic as well along Erie, which is going to make it even worse. And unfortunately, we do have a lot of people who don't go to the lights on either end to try and cross the street. And that's basically my main concern is the main entrance they want to have to that off of Parkdale. And personally, it's not feasible. It's not feasible to put a light up there because between that and the Bank of Montreal, that's a very sharp block. It's ridiculous. And I think the footprint might be a little bit large for what they're proposing to put there.
Okay, so to help me understand, in your first point, the one spot, are you talking about like the left-hand turn lane in the middle of Erie Street to?
Yes.
You can get one car in there to turn left in the
that's
park?
it.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for hearing what I have to say.
Just need your
My
name.
name is Ron
Yep,
Miles.
okay, good.
And I live at 1 Parkdale Avenue. A lot what I wanted to say, Janet has already mentioned. The fact that to get out onto Erie Street and try and turn left is just brutal some days. I go home for lunch every day at noon, 4 days a week, and at least one out of the 4, I cannot make a left-hand turn. I'd sit there for 10, 20 minutes. I don't know. I don't think it's right that they want to put an entrance to a drive-through on a one-way street. If you had 2 entrances, it would make traffic a lot easier, but there's only one way out of Parkdale. I don't want the noise around my house. It's a quiet neighborhood. I don't want the people hanging around after the coffee shop's closed. Those are my concerns. Okay?
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, Ron, when you said one way, you mean it's a dead-end street? Yeah, not, yeah, okay.
Hi, my name's Terry Coulter. I live at 8 Parkdale Ave. My concern about it is all the noise, traffic. Get on and off that road, it's almost impossible. I'm concerned about people hanging out there after it closes. Even if we have a school bus that runs by there, picks up my granddaughter, and the cars that blow by that school bus. With the traffic, that's just gonna be that much more. And everybody else pretty much covered everything. My concern is I live right behind that place. What's it gonna do to my housing? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Here you go.
My name's Sharon Johnston. I live at 12 Parkdale. And the big thing with Parkdale is it is a dead-end street. It's a small residential street, quiet. This isn't going to be quiet. It's an in and out on Parkdale. Trying to cross over just walking is really dangerous, extremely difficult to do across Erie Street. So without a light there, it's virtually impossible to cross over to Lakeside Bakery, or you have to go all the way down to the next light. And as I said, to put another light there, it's so congested in that area already. It's a challenge just driving in, driving out of this road. It's a really small street. I don't know if anybody's been down there, but it's a tiny street. Putting a commercial property this big on there is going to totally change. You know, if you want to drive the residents out, that's how you do it. And they're asking for several reductions, proposals for reductions. Again, that's a big concern. You know, the green areas, the parking areas. I have a lot of concerns, so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. I guess some of the comments that are coming up is that the in and out on Parkdale and so forth, that really hasn't come before us at this stage. Like, we don't have the official site plan. We don't have any information as to in, out, north, south, east, west, anything at all, do we?
Through you, Your Worship, the site plan approval process is actually done at the staff level. The Manager of Planning Services has the approval power for and the signing ability for the agreements for site plan approval. So those matters would not be coming to council. The actual design of the site would not normally come back to council.
Mr. Sharon?
Forgive me, Your Worship. I was just going to point out to Councillor Jacobs that the traffic plan that shows the in and out off Parkdale, as well as the right out only onto Erie and the right in only off of Erie, is included in the package, and we actually have it up on the screen right now.
If I may, Your Worship, one more question. Heather, you're saying that the site plan will not come back to council? That'll be strictly within planning?
Mr. Neufeld?
When that change was made, we made a commitment to coming back to council when we thought that there was going to be some, if there were going to be contentious issues. Administration will look at them first to see if we can mitigate the issues, but in this case, I am fairly certain that given the interest and the potential for conflict, that we'll be bringing the site plan back to so that council will be able to see it and understand what some of the contentious issues are.
So in other words, you're saying that will come back here for site plan approval, correct? Thank you.
Councillor Hammond?
Your Worship, thank you. It was good to hear from the residents. I have a question for Heather, but a comment first, if you don't mind. They've undergone some difficult times down there recently with the road construction, some other things. So, and to the point that was raised by Ms. Johnson. I know that myself and others have been up and down there since we got this report at least 4 or 5 times in the last week and looked at the height elevation difference and a bunch of things. But to my point, Heather, if it wasn't this that was going to be built on that commercial property on the corner, what would we allow? I mean, what would be more suitable than the proposed Starbucks that's going in there now?
Through you, Your Worship, it's a good question. There are not a lot of uses that would be suitable for the commercially designated part of the site. So that's the 2 lots that are fronting onto Erie Street, 291, 295. If we didn't include the 2 lots, those 2 vacant lots that are on Parkdale, there wouldn't be much that would be able to fit on that easterly part of the site. My guess is possibly a really small personal service shop, which may be a hairdresser, even offices. There's a regulation in the bylaw under the C2 zone, which is highway commercial. Some of the properties along this stretch are in a highway commercial zone. Some are in the shopping center commercial zone. So depending on which category you use, there are different uses that are permitted. So if it was a C2 or a highway commercial, even offices would need to be a minimum size. And I think it's around 5,000 square feet for the office space. And then you need your parking, and then you need your landscaping. So the property is not really easily developable as it sits today, thus the need to expand the Erie Street South Commercial District and rezone the property.
Councillor?
Your Worship, thank you, and thank you, Heather. Just a point, I mean, we sit on Committee of Adjustment, some of us have, and we understand that, we discourage entrances off of Erie Street, even up on this end, and we try to, I think for the most part, we try to encourage entrances and exits on the side streets, do we not? For example, in this case, Parkdale. We do. So I guess to my point then, regardless of what we put on that property, if it's allowable, in all likelihood, there's going to be an entrance or an exit onto Parkdale. Thank you.
Fair assumption.
Through you, Your Worship, yes, I would say there would be. If it was only the 2 corner lots, so 291 and 295 Erie Street South, there wouldn't be much space for a driveway onto Parkdale. But again, it's still probably going to be required in order to develop it.
Anyone else in the audience?
Good evening. Melanie Muir from Dillon Consulting.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Christian Lefebvre, the developer.
Just to explain a few more things, the property itself is currently designated and zoned differently. And the intent of the OP, as Heather has indicated, is that front portion in particular to continue the commercial zone. And because of the size and the actual cost of the lands, a smaller retail unit would A, not fit, and B, not be able to afford to purchase and redevelop that site as is. The potential tenant has obviously enough money to do this and do the proper zoning, official plan amendment, site plan control, all of the studies that have been required, stormwater management, traffic impact, to accommodate and show that their development will work. With regards to the traffic, we have done a full traffic impact assessment, and as indicated, we have met with engineering on Friday to finalize it. Basically, the outcome from doing traffic counts and going through the proper analysis according to traffic requirements indicated that the current level of service is what's called a level of service E, which is acceptable, and it currently sits at about a 40-second wait to have any car turn left. That is the average. Obviously, it varies during the day, but on average, through the peak hours in the morning and the peak hours in the evening, it's approximately 40 seconds. There may be longer turns, but that is the average. As a result of bringing in the proposed restaurant and drive-through, the level of service will remain the same. The wait will add an extra 5 seconds approximately. So we'll go to about 45 seconds of wait. As well, with the right in, right out onto Erie, a lot of the people will not be using the Parkdale access to turn right, to then turn right onto Erie Street. That's the purpose of the right in, right out, is to almost bring the people out to Erie Street that way, so that left is the only way to go for them if they need to on Parkdale. As well, with the size of the property, if we were to only look at the front two portion or parcels that are on Erie Street, from a traffic perspective, there isn't enough depth to get any access. And with the requirements through the municipality that they don't want a full access because of the location of the property onto Erie Street, we can't be landlocked, and we can't, nobody would be able to develop that site in any way in order to have access, because they need an access. And by adding the extra 2 properties on Parkdale and bringing the driveway back, it is at an acceptable level for access and traffic purposes, as well as providing a full access for the drive-through restaurant. With regards to pedestrians, the sidewalks will not be modified on Parkdale. They've just been replaced, and they will be encouraged to be used. We're providing additional pedestrian access to the site via additional sidewalks, both from Erie and Parkdale, to bring people in. We're also providing bicycle spaces to encourage multimodal use, and so that the intent is to increase the number of foot and multimodal use, like bicycles and other modes of transportation, and minimize the number of cars. We have looked at standard trip generation for this use, and we've done a lot of work with this tenant before, and we are within their relative acceptable numbers, as well as the traffic engineering numbers that are required. Stormwater management has been completed, and as indicated, it will be reviewed through the site plan control process, but it can be said that storage will be on site, everything will be taken care of and contained on site, and the elevation of the lands will be brought back down to a more acceptable level with regards to the neighboring properties. So it won't be quite as high as it currently sits, and it'll be more in level with the rest of the lands around it. There is limited zoned commercial properties in the area that the tenant would like within their acceptable area, and as a result, this was the ideal location. It's already in a primarily commercial zone, and they would like to locate in this area. Everything else that has been discussed has been addressed through consultation with the planning department, the engineering department, and the necessary studies, and we hope that we can proceed forward with an amendment to the OP and the zoning, as well as through site plan control in the near future.
Questions from council? Comments? To me, if I could, I have a great deal of respect for engineers, traffic engineers, consultants. You're all professionals in your own right. But I always get a kick out of when you use the lines that the acceptable level of whatever. And I know any of us who drive around the streets of Leamington, and I can pick on Al, and he's sitting back in there. When it comes to traffic lights, we lose our minds sometimes when we sit there for 5 or 10 seconds or 15 seconds longer than we think we should have to. And I just think about this turning left out of Parkdale. You're already hearing the residents saying that sometimes it's nearly, in their own minds, their own perception, it's nearly impossible to make it happen. And in all likelihood, it probably is. So when you say that it's only 40 seconds or 45 seconds, and adding this business here is only going to add another 5 seconds onto that wait. What if you've got a lineup of people coming out there, you've got however many you can stack, right? Waiting to turn left off of Parkdale, and I live at the other end of Parkdale, and I want to get out. So now I'm waiting 45, 50 seconds for each one of those cars. Now it's not 40 seconds, it's 2 minutes or whatever, which in the grand scheme of things is not that big of a deal in our entire lives, but when you want to get somewhere, you want to get somewhere. So how do you answer that?
Through the analysis, they did take a look at how long and how big a space would require for stacking on Parkdale. And as a result, it was determined that currently there's approximately one car plus 1.1 meters worth of backup, as they would call it. And with the addition of this, it would increase that backup to a 6.9 meter, which is actually only one more car length. So you'd have the car in front plus then one car, whether it's yourself or somebody coming out of the drive-through. That was through the analysis. It was taken a look at and discussed in a meeting on Friday specifically with Alan and
I know you both sides have gone through an extensive amount of work on that. I'm fully aware of that. So myself personally, I do the right in, right out. I don't need the hassle of turning left onto busy streets. I do it everywhere I go. But it's a training thing that you have to get people through. But okay.
Your Worship, just one quick thing. Just as a side note, with the potential for the road diet that is supposed to be happening in that area, there is the potential to close the access across the street that's directly across on Parkdale and have interconnected parcels. As a result, that will also create larger gaps on Erie Street to allow the left turns to happen, which will actually increase the level of service.
And I think there are other plans that we have talked big picture to with another access road.
Yep.
We all see that, but that could take a year, 2 years, 3 years to actually happen. So we have to kind of keep all of that in our minds right now. But I do appreciate it. So I had some hands up here. Councillor Wilkinson. No?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, everybody, for their opinions here tonight and their input. Appreciate it. I guess my question is for administration. Just wondering, with the comments that we got tonight, how long do you think this follow-up report will take to come back to council with recommendations?
Through you, Your Worship, there's still some information that's outstanding that we need from the applicant. So the sooner we can get the information from the applicant, the faster we can proceed to get this back to council. I would say that this would give us a chance also to work further in with the site plan and make sure there's no other relaxations or relief required from the zoning bylaw that could potentially require another rezoning. We want to make sure that this is going to be as complete a package as possible, so the applicant is not going to be required to come back with another amendment or go back to Committee of Adjustment for a variance. We'd like it to encompass everything that it possibly could. So once we get the additional information from the applicant, then we'd be able to get it scheduled back, send notices to the interested neighbors that want to continue to be notified. I would certainly say it would be hopeful that this could be done for January, but again, it will depend on when we get that information from the applicant.
Mr. Neufeld?
Yeah, I'd like to have a little bit of clarification. If we're anticipating, you're telling council you're anticipating one extra car turning left in the stacking, does that mean that you're anticipating the vast majority of the cars to exit right through the right in, right out in Erie? And what do you have potential counts, the number of cars? I'm just I think that's important information for council to hear.
Yes, we do, through your worship. It is, sorry.
Sorry to catch you off guard
It's
like
okay.
that, but
No,
it's
no,
some,
no.
I think
just
it's
have
some
to find the
pertinent
right page, 'cause
information.
Unfortunately, I'm not the traffic engineer, but I do understand the entire report, but I needed to find the exact information. At this time, for a typical, our tenants' workings, we expect that basically it'll be in the afternoon, 50% will be going out right in, right out, and the other 50 would be going left, but with the intent that in the morning it would be the opposite. It would be more heading, north, outbound, and heading, so there'll be 56% heading left, like turning left, and the other 44 heading the opposite way, out the right in, right out. But it's fairly 50-50, and it does reduce. It can be reduced even further once the road diet, and if that happens or anything else.
Thank you. And a follow-up through you, Your Worship. Does the report have total anticipated numbers, though, rather than percentages? Do you have those numbers?
Yes. Sorry. The future total volumes at this time, sorry, I'm just trying to, you'd have approximately, sorry, site drive-through. Just give me 1 second to just. Okay, currently, there are approximately 21 cars turning left during the peak 2 hours in the morning, which is 7 and 9 in the morning. So that's spread over the full 2 hours. And they currently have 10 heading out in the evening during a 2-hour period. It is expected that in the future, there will be approximately 50 turning, sorry, I'm just trying to read this, 55 turning left in the morning, and that includes the current residents. So you've got your 21 currently, and so you're going to add, basically double it and turn left, and then the other amount will, the rest of the people that are expected will be going through the right in, right out. And at this time, sorry, I don't have that. The remaining numbers, though, the rest of the people, which is the other, basically half of the people, will be using the right in, right out. But it should also be noted that the majority of the people heading into the site won't be turning onto Parkdale. They'll be using the right in, right out to come in as well, unless they're specifically using the drive-through. So those numbers will be split as well. But outwards, it'll basically double, but because it's spread over a multiple 2-hour time frame in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, it will disperse through, and that's why they are able to determine the level of service and the timing of the waits.
Okay. Councillor Hammond?
Worship, thank you, if I may. Melody, engineering may already have these statistics that you're quoting, but is it possible to get copies for the, I personally would like to see a copy of it, and I'm sure my fellow councillors would as well. Okay.
Peter?
Yes, Councillor Hammond, I think what we'll try to do is bring that information together with the site plan when we come back, so that we have that kind of information for council to consider.
Yeah, it will be all submitted.
Okay.
Again.
I see someone standing up at the back. Are you wishing to? Yep. Come on up. There's another microphone on the right-hand side here, too. So.
Glenn Vidal, 12 Parkdale. Okay, a couple points here, just bringing this up. So the road has actually been under construction since about the 18th of September. So I was just curious when this traffic impact study was actually done. To further that, you said there's 40 seconds. So that was average for the 20 houses, roughly? For that. Okay. And let's see here. And you said you anticipate 66% will be going left out of? 56?
It was goofy as that.
In the morning? Okay.
So I love you guys having a great conversation by yourselves, but you're supposed to be talking to us at council
Sorry.
first, and then we'll ask them to answer your questions for you.
My apologies.
I know it sounds weird, but... yeah.
So basically, it's just, I have a major concern about the traffic impact of turning left out of there. I think it will absolutely be almost impossible. I think this will dramatically increase the time of getting out. I don't think it will be possible. I think they'll have to deviate or make some kind of amendments or construction once they see that the viability just isn't there for the vast majority turning left, simply because turning right, I mean, it's you're going downtown going left, whereas right, you're basically just going nowhere. So the traffic concern, so when leaving Parkdale, it's oftentimes extremely difficult due to the high intensity traffic at any point. I think it could lead to serious accidents. People don't want to wait that long, and when they do find that it's their turn, they're going to take it, and that could lead to also major issues. My second one, it's more not just a concern, it's more of a statement. Like I said, the road has been under construction since around the 18th of September, and I'm kind of suspicious about this new roadwork and upgraded infrastructure that has just been completed on Parkdale. Simply because I feel it was required in order for something like this to be put into place. And I think it should be noted that this work was done at partial expense of Parkdale's homeowners. So you can see how that kind of seems a little strange to I guess, myself. It raises questions about the legitimacy of the development, but I mean, that's not neither here nor there, but that was just kind of just a statement and concern that I have about that. So.
Well, I hope I can put that to rest for you.
Okay.
We're doing sewer separation everywhere we can.
Okay.
As funding becomes available, because we're trying to stop polluting Lake Erie.
Right.
And so, I mean, yours is one of the many steps that we have to do. We've got a 100-year program to try and get all of our sewers from combined or non-existent into separated sewers. So this was not in our plans when we were doing your sewer separation. So,
Okay.
And everywhere we do sewers, the benefiting property owners have a piece of the pie. They must pay everywhere.
Right.
So again, no hidden anything going on there.
And just the last thing, something for consideration, I guess, would be something like the beer store. If there could be an on to Erie Street and then on the side street, maybe that would solve the issue. I couldn't imagine trying to go turn the beer store. That's kind of the same scenario that we're looking at here, I guess. If you could consider that, the traffic influx and flow coming in and out of there, that would be a unique study to look at, maybe see what the traffic flow of that is to kind of compare, maybe something like that, or possibly discuss with BMO Bank to open up their parking lot to go through that with but that's just...
That was tried.
Okay.
And you never know.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yes, if you'd like to answer. Yeah.
Through your worship, we have actually approached BMO several times, and so has the municipality, and they will not allow. That was one of the first things that was taken a look at, but they will not let us cut through, and even to the tenant and the owners at their buck, basically. They won't.
Okay.
So we had to look at something else, and at the time, originally it was a full access onto Erie, but from the traffic study and through discussions with the municipality, it just won't work. So we have to, the right in, right out is the best option, and then the full access on Parkdale.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, if there, Councillor Dunn, sorry.
Through your worship, my question is regarding the amount of, in your traffic study, how many drive-through to actual or customers going in and staying inside the restaurant? What's the percentage?
you turn your mic back on? Sorry. Yep.
Sorry, through you, Your Worship. I'm pretty sure it's 50/50, but I'd have to double check with the engineers on that one just to be sure.
But that's information, again, that we could include in the
It's all within the
report that will
report.
come back to us on that. Okay, if everybody's done speaking to council, we're good. Yeah, let me get back up to it. Just receive, yeah, I think that's all it was. So there is a recommendation, there we are. It is, yeah, the two points to the recommendation. One is to receive the input from the public, internal departments, and so on and so forth, and to report to council aligning staff recommendations will come back to us at some point in time, in January, hopefully. Moved by Councillor Jacobs, support by Councillor Verbicki. Discussion on the motion, and then all in favor? And motion carries. So we'll see you all back here in a bit. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Well, we've taken our vote already, so it's already done, so. Pardon me? All right, so apparently there was somebody at the last minute who wanted to speak, but the motion's already done and voted on. So if you have comments, please get them in writing and get them to our planner, and that way we'll at least have them on file. So anyway, we'll be moving on to reports of staff and delegations. Am I correct? Yep, right. Right? Planning meeting, okay. Yes, so we have the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee here this evening, wishing to do a presentation to council, so I'll invite you all up to the tables and you can introduce yourselves and fill us all in. Oh, push it again. Wait, there's a real little red light comes
Okay.
on.
So, through you, Mayor, we are the Leamington Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, and I will introduce our group tonight. So, we have myself, I'm the chairperson of the committee, and my name is Kiara Clement. And following me, we have Jillian Morocco, our vice chair, and then we have Natalie Edmondson, and then we have Hope Monaco, who is not here tonight. And then we have Doreen DeMann and Abby Weigel, and then Oana Balint, and she is also not here tonight. And we also have Chloe Jacob, who is not here tonight. And then we have Monica Clausen. And we would like to make a special thank you remark to Lucy Jackson for keeping us on track, and also Larry Verbicki, Angela Toole, Lindsay Gammon, and of course, you, the mayor, John Patterson. And with that, we will move on. Our purpose is to provide youth with a two-way channel of communications with council on important issues in our community, to provide youth with opportunities to volunteer and encourage community involvement, to establish youth-related priorities, and to give youth an understanding of municipal politics.
Our goals are to plan and execute community events for both fundraising and engagement, serve as an outlet for youth to voice their needs, wants, and concerns, and also to promote a positive recognition of local youth.
The purpose of the MIAC is to provide youth with a venue for their voice to be heard. Mayor John Patterson.
I stand by it.
And we've created Twitter, and the purpose of it was to be quick, easy, and accessible, modern, and effective, since more people are using obviously social media. Serves as a platform for more youth to be interactive.
We would like to see a skate park at least put in the budget for 2018, so that way we can establish something that will be able to facilitate physical activity and fun for the youth in our community. We have done research within the last 2 years, which has inspired us to not give up on the pursuit to get a skate park for our community. With that being said, we would encourage you to take that into consideration. Keep an open mind when considering the voices of those in need aren't always voices that speak loudly. Their actions do show that this is of interest of youth in our community.
Furthermore, one of our plans for this upcoming year would be the purchase of more T-shirts to have representation of who we are. And so we had made a bulk order of T-shirts around 5 years ago, and we are now out of those. And so we've came up with a new idea to use our new logo that we've created for the Twitter page and potentially other social medias. So I will show an example of that on the next slide. And our plan is to order in bulk again, so we will be able to pass on our extra T-shirts to the following members of the MIAC. And then we will also be using these to stay seen at our events. So the following slide is just an example. The right side of the image is our new logo, and then the other side is our aspiration for a T-shirt, I guess.
Similar to our Twitter page, we are also planning on getting a Facebook page to facilitate engagement that could reach a variety of people.
Another thing, a part of our plans is a mental health conversation presentation. We're still working on finding a location, but it would be a mental health conversation panel event. And the mission would be to have an open conversation regarding mental health in an attempt to bring awareness, fight the stigma, and show support, as well as present resources for a step to wellness. And we just want to use a panel of different speakers to help youth. And the speakers would be Dylan Dundas, Megan Marie Martin, Rebecca Lynn, Justine McNeil, and Lindley Crispo. And the money would be going to a different mental health organization that we haven't decided on yet.
Another event we have been considering is a music festival. It would be a summer event. It would take place at the amphitheater, and it would provide a platform for youth to showcase their musical talents. And it would create space for social and entertainment purposes in collaboration with Jaron Kerr.
Though these are our initial draft of plans, we continually encourage the youth in our community to use their voice, collaborate, and be involved.
We would like to thank you, and if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them. You can follow us on Twitter or contact the chairperson. Both are stated on the slide.
Thank you very much. Questions are coming. Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. Very impressive young ladies. Quite impressed with you. However, where's the male aspect of this? I just throw that out there. No disrespect.
Through your worship, we have had males apply to the council, or the committee, I guess, and it's just how it went this time around. In the past, we have had more male representation. However, this year, the females just decided to pick up the slack and represent. But yeah, if there were to have been more males that applied and decided to show dedication, we would of course have welcomed them with open arms. That's just not how it went this year.
Thank you. I guess very impressive young ladies, as I said previously, but maybe you intimidate them. You ever think of that? But, great job, ladies.
Councillor Hammond.
Thank you. And that was a good answer, too, and a good comeback. You touched on some research you've done for skateboard parks, so do we have a copy of that? Does Larry or John? And if not, can we get a copy of your research?
Through your worship. Yep. We have had Twitter polls done, and also we created a sign-up sheet with contact information, and it was put in one of our high schools. However, that wasn't exactly too reliable. We were mostly relying on our Twitter polls and word of mouth, and so if you would like us to provide you with the results from those, we will be able to send those over. They were shown last year in the presentation.
Yes, by all means, if you can. And
sure.
Did your research include the size and kind and location and all of those things about a skateboard park? Because you need to know that it's always on our minds here.
Yeah, through your worship. Yep. The research was mostly about whether or not it was of interest of youth. We didn't want to proceed with any further planning if it was not something that the community and the youth really was interested in, but we have found that our studies and research proved that the community needs something for those youth members to spend physical activity and time doing. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything you do have, we would welcome. Thank you.
Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship. Great job, ladies. That's a really great job. Kara, I want to also thank you for coming out to this weekend's charity soup luncheon, and I really appreciate bringing all your friends to help and volunteer. That shows you're really involved in the community. With that in mind, over the bridge and being there, that mental health topic you were talking about and having bringing awareness, I understand through the bridge that they also are going to be doing things, being the youth resource center. They will be doing things with the mental health as well. So maybe connecting with them to do your plans there might be a great opportunity to offer other things for the youth in the area. So, but great job, ladies, great job.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you girls would have had opportunity to look at our budget that we're starting to discuss tomorrow, but skate park is on there for consideration. And I will say, back in 2007, we did have a committee to look at skateboard parks, and we saw that there was definitely interest back then. And I sat on a committee. Councillor Hammond would know this because he wasn't on council at the time, but we did do research. We toured the county looking at all the different types of skate parks and what we thought would work for our community. So the homework has been done. So now it's just a matter of everyone up here deciding whether or not they want to spend the money. So put the pressure on, and I will tell you, being intimidating, don't worry about it. It works.
Councillor Verbeke.
We're the mayor, thanks. Deputy Mayor, I hope it's not going to take another 10 years to get this developed now. So, it's been a pleasure working with them and seeing these mines go. It's unreal how much work they actually get done in an hour. I know they got their secret Facebook account that the mayor and I don't know about, but I know they're doing all this work behind the scenes, and it's great working with you, and congratulations.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, fantastic points. I wrote those two down. The mental health discussion you want to have, fantastic. Glad you're bringing that to the forefront. Music festival was one that really caught my ear, though. With our budget discussions starting this week, we're looking for programs to put into our new beautiful amphitheater we have built. Run with that idea, you know, look for our tourism officer, our new economic development officer, Paul over there, our director. We need to talk to you about programs like that, events like that are needed down at the new amphitheater. So, fantastic job. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you all for taking another night out of your busy schedules to do this. It makes me proud. I can't help it. I have to admit it. And I don't mean to pick on you, Kara, but when this young lady first came onto the committee, I'm not sure she would even look at us, right? Yeah, she's very, very, very quiet. And it's something I've witnessed on our MIAC. Whether it's the young men or the young ladies who have been there, they usually start off very quiet. Well, some of the guys were never quiet, right? I mean, they're pretty strong anyway. But some of them were very, very quiet and reserved. And by the end of their times, much like Yara herself, it's a complete change because, like as whoever said it, the Mayor Patterson said, give the youth a voice, right? Well, exactly. We would have wanted it as kids, and so giving you the venue for it is perfect for me. And you are also on the student council at St. Clair College now, too, are you not? Yeah, so it's not like you're sloughing off any duties anywhere. But all of the young ladies here tonight and the ones that aren't here tonight certainly never hesitate to speak. So we have representatives from Leamington High, Cardinal Carter, and this year UMEI, which is the first time, and we've tried for years to get someone, so it's really a pleasure. All three high schools represented. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you very much for coming out tonight. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to add one thing. If your group humbled these two gentlemen up here, you're doing a fantastic job, believe me.
That's right. All right. Well, again, thank you very, very much. Good work. And you're more than welcome to sit through the rest of the council meeting if you want to, just, or you can take off. We'll move on to the next reports of staff delegation. It's one regarding the Erie Shore Community Transit Service, and Mr. Botham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend that the municipality enter into a 10-year agreement with the South Essex Community Council to contribute annual funding towards specialized transit service as the Erie Shores Community Transit, and to contribute $7,500 annually for the purchase of a new bus. And we have Deba Daher and Mark Waibenga are here from South Essex Community Council, and they will be available if council has any questions regarding the Erie Shores Transit. The municipality of Leamington does operate a conventional transit system with accessible buses, but we are limited by existing infrastructure and the size of a reasonable bus route. So that is to say that not every person in Leamington can access the transit stops and utilize this conventional transit service with ease and dignity. Leamington partners with the South Essex Community Council and the Erie Shores Transit to provide specialized transit. So beginning in 1991, Leamington has maintained a formal agreement with SECC to provide this transportation service. It's the opinion of administration that this partnership works very well and helps to ensure that all groups benefit from services offered to the general public. And I have a quote in my report regarding the Erie Shores Transit: that transportation services across Windsor and Essex County provides affordable door-to-door transportation, including service to Windsor and across Essex County. Travel for appointments, socializing, errands, shopping, volunteering, and visiting friends and family. The current 10-year agreement, which expires December 31st, 2017, includes for two contributions from Leamington: annual operating expenses and capital contribution toward the purchase of new buses. The SECC has similar agreements with the municipality of Chatham-Kent and the town of Kingsville. The current agreement divides an operating expense of just over $21,000 between Leamington, Kingsville, and Chatham-Kent based on ridership. Every 6 months, the SECC totals ridership and invoices the contributing municipalities their respective share. The average portion of ridership for Leamington over the last 12 years is 54%, and over the last 2 years, the average is 49%. The current agreement also requires each contributing municipality to set aside and make available $5,000 each per year that will be again used for the purchase of new buses for the Erie Shores Transit System. The operating contribution of $21,000 has not changed or been renegotiated since 1991. The SECC has advised that the funding model that's been in place for the last 26 years no longer adequately addresses the financial obligations of the operating system, SECC had to utilize reserve funds that was intended for other programs on occasion to offset the operational requirements of the Erie Shores Transit. They have requested that the operating contribution be increased to $40,000 plus an annual index for the Consumer Price Index. The new draft agreement remains largely unchanged over the previous agreement. However, it does improve the municipal contributions to adequately address the needs of the program and incorporates the Consumer Price Index adjustment on an annual basis in order to maintain a balance with rising operational costs. During our discussions, Chatham-Kent proposed that the capital contribution that we share of $15,000, which is currently set at $5,000 per each contributing municipality, be shared proportionally, again, based on the ridership. Based on the Leamington average ridership of approximately 50%, that would equal approximately $7,500 per year as a contribution from Leamington. And for information, it's anticipated by the SECC that a new bus would be purchased every 4 years at a cost of approximately $100,000. Administration from Leamington, Kingsville, and Chatham-Kent are in general agreement with the revised obligations of this draft agreement and remain committed to the service. Taking into account inflation since 1991, and again, this is for Council's information, more specifically the fact that fuel costs have more than doubled. In 1991, a liter of gas was 52 cents. We believe the cost increases are justified. Leamington residents with disabilities receive a vital service at a reasonable cost as a result of this agreement. And under the financial impact section, there's no taxation impact to Leamington, as all of these costs are funded through the Ontario Transit Gas Tax. For operating expense, therefore, should Leamington ridership, should the share remain at approximately 50%, that would mean Leamington's contribution to the $40,000 would be approximately $20,000. And again, our share, based on if ridership does stay the same, our share of the $15,000 contribution toward capital purchases would be approximately $7,500. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Questions? Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. Alan, in your report, you said door-to-door bus service. Does that mean that you pick up at a residence and then take them to a specific address, or is this just to pre-designated drop-off locations?
No, this is the Erie Shore Transit is a door-to-door service from your home or wherever you are to where you want to go.
Okay, thank you. That's a great service to provide. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson.
No comment, but sounds like it's very fair and long overdue. So with that, I would support the recommendation.
Okay. Support by Councillor Hammond. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion carries. There you go. Next item up for discussion is one regarding the UV ballast and bulb replacement project, and Ms. Below was taking us through that.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. This report recommends that Council authorize administration to issue a purchase order to Xylem Water Solutions to purchase and replace the existing ultraviolet disinfection ballasts and bulbs at the Leamington Pollution Control Center with more energy-efficient equipment. The PCC disinfects the final effluent using ultraviolet irradiation, which kills bacteria and viruses prior to discharging into Lake Erie. The original system was installed in 2005 and includes 3 channels. Each of the operating channels is divided into 2 banks and includes a total of 42 ballasts and 84 bulbs. The system operates 24 hours a day, and the operation is managed by flow-paced controls. So as flow increases or decreases, the number of banks and associated bulbs and ballasts in operation will fluctuate. In 2016, PCC completed a detailed engineering study which identified that the plant UV system was not functioning efficiently based on flow and current power use, and also identified that the system consumes higher than average energy at 5 to 7% of the total plant. Administration recognized an opportunity to replace the UV equipment that is reaching its useful life and also capture energy savings within the same project, and engage Xylem, the original manufacturer of the system, to identify some operational improvements. Since 2005, a limited number of the ballasts have been replaced, but the majority have now reached their useful life. Xylem has suggested that we are experiencing the increased energy consumption due to the failure of these ballasts. Because of the way the system compensates for these failures, and by turning on the additional banks, it results in additional ballasts and bulbs operating that may not need to be if the system was operating as designed. This has resulted in the UV bulbs that typically have a 12,000-hour life, reaching that useful life sooner than anticipated. As a result of the review, Xylem has recommended that we replace the existing ballasts and bulbs with more energy-efficient equipment. When those are upgraded simultaneously, they're estimated to reduce energy consumption by 25 to 30%. In addition to doing the equipment upgrades, we would also be looking at modifying our programming logic with the system, and that could increase our energy consumption, reduce our energy consumption by up to 35%. We worked with Essex Power Lines, and they have approved the Save on Energy application to install the new ballasts and bulbs and also do the PLC changes, which could provide an estimated rebate of about $6,200. There is a possibility that depending on the outcome of the study, that rebate could be more or less than they've estimated at this point, but we will not know that until the final results are in. As mentioned, Xylem is the original manufacturer of the system and the associated equipment. They are well known in the water and wastewater industry and have been designing and installing UV disinfection systems for decades. We have continued to engage Xylem at PCC on equipment replacement and programming issues since the installation, and we are therefore recommending a single source approval for them for this project. The UV ballast and bulb project is included in the 2017 capital budget under energy study upgrades. The total cost for the equipment and the PLC upgrades is $117,290, which includes the net HST. Upon successful completion of the project and supporting energy savings data, Essex Power Lines would provide us with a rebate check, which would be placed into a PCC reserve account. So in closing, the recommendation before council is to authorize administration to issue a purchase order to Xylem in the amount of $117,290 to purchase and replace the ultraviolet disinfection ballasts and bulbs with more energy efficient equipment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from council? Not? Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship. My question is regarding the ballast and is there an acceptable level of bacteria? Does it kill all the bacteria, or is there a government standard, or is it, that's what I'm curious about.
Yep, so in our ECA through the Ministry of the Environment, we have to achieve a certain level, which is we have to get 200 microorganisms per milliliter. So that is the level that's in our ECA, and that's what we try to maintain through our optimal disinfection. So we disinfect continuously 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to maintain that.
Moved by Councillor Dunn, support by Councillor Verbicki. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Next item up is one regarding the County of Essex agricultural lot size. I can't believe this is coming back again. But, Danielle. Why don't they listen?
Good evening, Mayor Patterson, members of council. So in February of this year, Planning Services brought forward a report for information to council advising that the County of Essex agricultural lot study was complete and that the findings would be presented to the County Council the following week. Within the staff report, council advised that the agricultural lot size study maintained the position that 40 hectares or 98.8 acres be established as a minimum farm lot size in the county OP, and that County Council should initiate an official plan amendment to the County OP establishing that the 40 hectares be included as part of the land use policies. So there was much discussion by this council at that meeting. That discussion was regarding concerns that the study did not accurately reflect the needs of the agricultural industry within Leamington. Within the report before you this evening, I've summarized and listed many of the comments that were noted during that meeting. Council, by recorded vote, passed a resolution to receive administration's report under protest. So then the following week, the findings of the study were presented by the consultants to County Council, where additional questions and concerns were brought forward by members of County Council. Following that presentation, County Council directed that each municipality have an opportunity to provide their own comments and that the steering committee was requested to seek input from their local council. So the steering committee is made up of the planners in the county. This report this evening is being presented to let Council know that the steering committee is still in support of establishing a minimum farm lot size and to also formally seek Council's comments on that recommendation. In order to ensure that each council receives clear and consistent information about what the 40-hectare policy means within the agricultural industry, the steering committee drafted a memo outlining the key findings of the study. That's been attached as a figure 1 to this report. The memo is really a summary of findings of section 15.3 of the large agricultural study, and it tries to identify the critical issues which were being addressed by the study. So the memo attached to this report contains 15 points, all of which are in support of the recommended 40-hectare farm lot minimum. It should be noted that the 40-hectare minimum only applies to lot creation in the ag area. Any existing farm would be permitted to operate and to be used in any way that the designation or the applicable zoning applies. The study found that the vast majority of the farms in Essex County were less than 20 hectares or 50 acres in size. The 40-hectare minimum lot seeks to protect the few remaining large parcels available to ensure that agriculture can remain resilient and has the ability to adapt to changes in the agricultural industry over the long term. So in Leamington, the current minimum farm lot size is 10 hectares or 24.7 acres. At this time, less than 30% of the farms are greater than 50 acres, and only 5% of those represent farms that are greater than 100 acres. So anyone looking for a farm smaller than 50 acres will have no trouble finding a farm to do that. However, if you require anything greater than 50 acres, there's less of a selection, and that is further constrained once you are looking for a 100-acre parcel in Leamington. In 2017, we've processed 6 additional farm splits, so they're not showing in the numbers on the chart. So those have been approved, but the deeds haven't been stamped. The farmers are working to create those parcels. And so that means that those numbers that are showing, the 30%, 70%, are actually even slightly lower. Historically, the number of farm split applications considered by the Committee of Adjustment and Council each year, it's been consistently low. We haven't had a big rush to split farm parcels since that 40-hectare minimum was first introduced, and so we first heard about this in 2009 in Leamington when OPA 1 was brought forward, and in fact was probably one of the main reasons why OPA 1 didn't proceed. And then secondly, when the county OP was adopted in 2013, it suggested that we start to consider or do that study to determine what that minimum farm lot size was. So we haven't seen any difference in how many farm splits per year since that time. Further to that, since this February of this year, there have been 5 greenhouse developments going forward on 50-acre farms, 4 on 100-acre farms, and really at the other end of the spectrum, we've had 3 developments that have represented the last expansion opportunity for those farms that are on under than 50-acre parcels. So again, this policy seeks to prevent the further fragmentation of farmland available in Essex County to ensure that large parcels of farmland are available if technology or an operator requires a farm size of greater than 50.
It's on. Your mic's on, but it's not picking up for some reason.
Better?
Yep.
Yeah, it was me. Items 5 through 8 within the memo point out the disadvantages and impacts of having only small farms available. Some of those things include the proximity of incompatible land uses, we have more houses being built and then severed as surplus dwellings, land price increases and competition, and the need to assemble land to meet setback distances and required acreages for farming. The policy is being recommended to protect agricultural land as a resource and not to protect the right of landowners to sever. The county OP currently contains provisions which acknowledge that there may be special land uses or special considerations for specialty crops, and that further study would be required to implement those policies for those lands. So specialty crops, greenhouses, orchards, those types of things. And the county OP currently has a policy to say that if Essex County would like to do additional studies to determine what those are and what the needs of those areas are, you can do so. It doesn't specifically mention a minimum lot size or what's the smallest acreage for those, but that's what the study would include as well. So that provision is not being taken out of the OP. If you're a specialty crop, there's still an opportunity to look at that. Item 14 in the memo also speaks to the fact that policies are not set in stone. There's always a process that you can go through if we see that there are changes in data, changes in technology that are impacting a policy. So again, we are looking, within the memo it acknowledges that we have to review the OPs over time, or if we see that there is a change, we do have a process to go through that, to change that. At this time, County Council is being asked to initiate an official plan amendment based on the recommendation that a 40-hectare minimum farm lot size be established. An official plan amendment at the county level must go through the same process as anyone else before a policy is put in place. And so that would include, we would start the process, there'd be notice, there'd be another round of public consultation. As well, once a decision has been made, there's also an appeal opportunity. However, if that OPA were to be in place, each municipality must confirm to that area requirement whether their OP currently contains that policy or not. So administration would not be in a position to recommend support for farm splits for anything smaller than creating 2 100-acre parcels from that point on. Again, the steering committee feels that the study was extremely comprehensive, and established an argument to establish 40-hectare minimum to protect agricultural land as a resource that should be properly managed to ensure resilience and flexibility for farming in the future and over the long term. The recommendation before Council this evening is to support the 40-hectare minimum and to provide any comments in consideration of the same to County Council.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Just a quick question before we go any further. I was just surprised, Danielle, that of all the people on the committee, the large urban centers each had 2 representatives, and those of us who are most affected by this have 1 each. So when you couple those large urban centers with the 2 votes apiece, with the representative from the county as well as the consultant, they have the majority right out of the hatch. Can you give me an explanation? I feel like the deck was loaded, if you will.
So the steering committee is made up of the planners, or so we have the director and managers of each of the planning departments from all of the municipalities. I can't say that it wasn't a consensus. I really don't know how to address that. We were all on the same page moving forward as planners. We each brought forward the representation of each of our municipalities, but we never considered a vote. So I don't know that I can answer that question.
You didn't have to vote on this, on the issue, as a group, no?
No, we brought it forward in consensus. We were all in agreement.
So you, as our representative, agreed with this?
So again, as the steering committee, as a planner, I'm in support of the recommendation, but we've continually made sure that the committee is aware of Leamington's concern. So in the past, we've forwarded a separate letter from administration bringing forward those concerns. After the county council meeting, there was a steering committee meeting where we discussed all of these concerns of each of the councils. So really, Leamington was the only one, I believe, that we actually brought a report to council before it went to county council. So we had already brought those concerns to you, and I made the committee aware of each of the concerns and how Leamington Council sees the presentation.
Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. Danielle, in a few words or less, I've read this over and over and over, and who gains, who loses in this thing? Like, I can't see anything definitive in supporting it? That there's winners and losers here somewhere? Could you enlighten me?
I think what this really brings home is that there are a third of the properties that will no longer be able to split their property. And what the study showed us was that there was no benefit to agriculture, not to the property owner, but to agriculture in further splitting the property. So the disadvantage is to 30% of the property owners. They will not be able to further split their property just for that reason. Again, the study then puts out to say that in order to manage the land resource and to promote and protect agriculture, this is the positive.
So when you say a large farm, you're talking 100 acres or more, will not be permitted to split that property? Is that what you're enlightening to?
Correct. So the report is addressing 40 hectares or more, which is 98.8 acres. Sometimes it's easier to deal in acres. But what's relevant for Leamington is right now a 100-acre parcel in Leamington can be split into 4 parcels. That might not be the case in the other municipalities. 2 of them are already at 100. I believe Tecumseh is at 50. We went through that in the last report. So that's where there's a slightly greater impact to Leamington because we allow farms to be fragmented more than anybody else. So we're really looking at farms that are 50 acres and above.
So you're saying we have the right to tell a farmer that if he has 100 acres of land, he can't sell 50, or it doesn't make any sense to me. Who are we to dictate that type of a scenario? I can't buy it, sorry.
Councillor Verbeke.
Mr. Mayor, thanks. The people that I've contacted, and I have, in my professional opinion, I have several hundreds, and none of them were notified about even having to qualify for this survey. So I don't know where the survey came. And I know farmers at 10 acres, and I know farmers that run 13,000 acres. I was a little put off about that. And I know, well, I'm not going to, don't pin me down to the year, but I'm going to say 3 to 4 years ago, there was a lawyer that went on behalf of the smaller farmers to present to county council, did an excellent job, and I just want to know where his submissions are because we may need them again for that. So I was just hoping that Peter Neufeld could enlighten me a little bit with that and hopefully give me the report. And you talk about the skateboard park. I'd like to have that report emailed to me too again, Peter, if you don't mind. Other than that, I'm not supporting this because it doesn't make sense. I mean, let's be different. We're not all cookie cutters. We're not, some of us work in the field every day going up and down the same row. So, I mean, it's a different farming now. It's not making sense. So I will not be supporting the recommendation. I'd like to have another kick at the can.
Mr. Neufeld, did you want to reply?
Well, with respect to the submission that was made to the county, I'm sure that we have that, and if not, we'll get it. That's yeah. Yeah, we will we'll find those submissions. I think part of the question that also needs to be asked is where does OMAFRA stand on this issue? Because as a municipality, we're trying to take a position that that is somewhat it's unique. We're coming up against the county official plan, who is they are the approval body for our official plan, and it's being based on provincial policy that's coming through OMAFRA, who, confusingly to me, is there, I believe, to represent the farming community. So I'm not really sure how. I'm not going to go back into my other life, but it is still somewhat confusing to me how. Well, maybe it's not so much confusing as it is disconcerting that the organization at the provincial level that's supposed to be representing the farmers is really, my understanding is driving this and saying that it's for the protection of farming going forward. This council has been pretty clear right from the beginning. It's just a matter of whether a position contrary to the county is really going to go anywhere. I'm not suggesting we don't fight. I'm not suggesting that council shouldn't make their concerns known. But eventually we're going to be up against the county, who is the official, our approval body for our official plan.
So, Councillor Verbeke?
Maybe we should get out of the county. Because I know Omafra, I mean, they're losing 100 acres a day. Now, I'm not sure if it's Ontario, but it's Canada for development. Maybe that's where this is coming from. Seriously, let's be a single-tier government.
If it were so easy. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. In response to Mr. Neufeld, when Omafra, or whoever's looking at this, whether it's the provincial legislation or what, do they not look at the geographic area? Like our growing season here would tend to be longer than others. I mean, I know some of, and I'm not a farmer by any means, but you know, your soybeans, your cash crop type things, corn, and so on. We're here in Essex County. We're able to plant crops in March, where they're still under snow in other areas within the province. So, like, to me, this has got to be a factor in determining what's right. Like, this doesn't sit well with me, and I'm with Councillor Verbeke on that, with his expertise in farming, is that I couldn't support this.
I think one of the things that that Danielle has included in her report is that the concern or the consideration isn't about, and well, making it obvious, they aren't so concerned about the rights of the farmer being able to break apart his land. They're more concerned about, they're viewing this as maintaining or preserving large pieces of farmland as large units. They go on to say, therefore, you know, ensuring agriculture. That's the part that is most confusing to me. I think that there are as many arguments about being able to make farming affordable for people who want to get into farming. Young people being able to buy smaller parcels, or being able to purchase parcels as they become available. On the other hand, the argument back is, well, if you look at the numbers, there are lots of smaller parcels in Essex County, therefore the larger parcels should be maintained. I don't know how to satisfy this council. I share obviously the same concerns as you, and we have people here tonight who share those concerns. Not to speak for them, but I'm fairly certain if they have an opportunity to speak, you're going to hear some of those same arguments. I don't know. I just don't know how much of the fight will continue to. I don't know how much we'll be able to continue to fight, but obviously that's in council's hands.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking back on the report, I just want to remind my colleagues that on February 27th of this past year, we expressed the following concerns. The first was that the study did not take into account Leamington's situation at all, including that smaller farms in Leamington were financially viable and that the range of agriculture in Leamington was supported by having smaller farms. Point 2 was the type of farming in Leamington is not similar to other types of farming operations in Essex County. Number 3, the study did not seek out or consult Leamington's expert opinion regarding nature of smaller farms. Point 4 was the recommendations of the study did not reflect what was in the best interest of Leamington. Number 5, the study did not acknowledge what has changed in farming since the 40 hectare minimum was introduced. And number 6, in opposition of the findings and recommendations of the study, the municipality of Leamington would be required to present evidence and data to establish the appropriateness of a lower minimum farm lot size, et cetera, et cetera. I would just like to say that this report, delivered by what I see as largely people who have nothing to do with agriculture, they did not answer those. We had those concerns in the beginning of the year in February, and I say we still have those concerns. We're representing our municipality at the county table, and I would suggest that we keep representing our people the same way. And regardless of the fact that they may turn us down, we're taking a stand. And I think that's crucial in this. Like I said, if we intimidate them a little bit, so be it. We need to take a stand when we've been told by the people who are most affected by it. We need to stay with that stand, and I will be not voting for it simply because they have not proven to me that they've taken into account anything that Leamington has said prior when we were at county council, and they've not taken into account which, from what our planner said, she presented. So to my way of thinking, they've just had one goal in mind, and that was to do what the province said, and that's not that. To my way of thinking, that shouldn't be what they are there for. They should be looking at what is going on in the county.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Danielle, I want to know what the hardship or, the harm that there's going to be to the municipality going forward. If we were to stand alone, and, we identified it here months ago that we're unique in our situation, and we gave our points why we thought that. It sounds like the rest of the county, the consensus is eventually this is going to leave here, go to the county, and it's going to be supported. But if we decide to stand alone and be unique, what hardship does that do to the municipality going forward?
So again, this will come back to county council, where county council will vote on whether or not to bring forward an OPA, so the official plan amendment to the county council. So if county council feels that this should go forward, they will have to vote on that matter, and then it'll proceed. So the first is the county council, whether they support it. Second would be, it would go through an OPA process, so just like this one, notice public consultation, and then a vote again to support it. Moving forward, and then an appeal process. So we won't be excluded from it to say that Leamington won't be, our representatives will be there to assist with the decision. If it moves forward, it will apply to Leamington.
Okay, so that becomes part of their official plan at that point, the counties. And ours can't differ from that. We can't stand alone. Our official plan, when it's completed, cannot be different in that regards versus the counties at that point, correct?
Yes.
So we have to conform to the county OP. We're currently going through a review process, so we would then need to bring our own evidence to support the statements that were made. So how does smaller farms that make more money protect agriculture? The range of agriculture in Leamington is supported by having smaller farms. So we would be required to essentially collect the data that wasn't contained in the study that was just completed to answer these questions and give the county and the province the answer to these. So the type of farming in Leamington is not similar to types of farming operations in Essex County. So we would need to establish that through a study of our own. Did not seek out or consult Leamington's expert opinion, so we would have to provide those expert opinions.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering from our county colleagues up here, the opinion of county council. We know what the planners are thinking, obviously, but what's the feel from your colleagues on county council? Anybody want to share some thoughts there?
Well, I can tell you that when our neighbor to the west found out that Leamington still offered a 25-acre parcel, they long ago switched to the 100-acre, thinking, well, that's just the way it is, right? And they expressed to me personally, well, if you guys can do it, we should be doing that too, right? The other municipalities, I would suggest to you that they've probably never really focused on it at all and would just accept whatever they were told to do. So from our perspective, and Mr. Neufeld there representing at the time, we have fought this all the way along. No, we're sticking with 25 acres because that's what our farming community has told us all along. And I think you're hearing it again here tonight. This is where we still want to stay, so we've got to figure out how to address this. But, Deputy Mayor, do you want, am I close?
Well, you know, pretty much on any question that comes up at county council, there's at least two of us that are bucking the trend. And many times it's beating our heads against the wall. But you know what? It's worth it to take a stand for it. Like, we're representing our farmers that came out really in numbers that night that Peter presented to council before he was an employee of the municipality. So we are representing what we feel is the common want or need from the farmers in our community. I mean, I'm not a farmer, but I also understand that when somebody tells me that this is what they need in my region, then I'm going to support that. And again, whether they listen or not, I'm going to say no, because they do tend to vote with administration. They don't tend to buck the trend where typically we do.
So I have Councillor Hammond next.
Your Worship, thank you. I think that, and I'll get to my question in just a moment, but I think that it's pretty evident that the way that we feel as a council, nothing has changed, and I can't speak for everybody until the vote, obviously, but since the last time. But I think we're fortunate that we've got Peter, who has been able to carry this fight before, and will give us a good, strong voice and be able to fight the fight once more time. So to my question, Danielle, what kind of timelines are we looking at? I mean, I know that's difficult to say. By the time you go through the appeal process and all the rest of it, are we talking possibly a year before we could be forced to change, or are we longer or shorter than that? I'm sorry to put you under the gun that way.
So this report has yet to, the follow-up report has yet to go to county council to decide whether or not they'll even follow through with that. But typically, once they start that OPA process, it's about 6 months. So I feel that we're going to have this issue forced on us either at that time or earlier than that, because we're doing our own OP right now. And so if it doesn't come forward in the county OP, we're going to have the same battle when we're doing our own OP. OMAFRA is going to be at our door saying, in 2009, we asked you to consider the 100 acres. So an OP, if the county decided to go through with it, it would be 6 months for their process if we didn't encounter it first.
Yes, Your Worship, once again, so you brought up a point that I hadn't considered, and that being our own OVP could dictate to us that we have to do it. And here we are trying to push our OP to get it up and running, or get it through, so.
Councillor Verbicki.
Or the Mayor, it's another hypothetical question. What if we didn't? We would just have to do the fight, get our own synopsis, and pay money to get the reports. Why can't they tell us with their consultant reports why small farms are no good? No, now we got to go the other way, and probably it's going to cost money to do this. Now, how do we fight the fight?
Well, that goes back to the planning side of it again. But again, as Mr. Neufeld said, the drive from this is coming from the province, right? And they're just basically telling the county and the municipalities what is going to happen. So, and it's going to be my question back to Danielle is about the exception is still allowed, or the appeal is still in the county OP for us to prove that a 25-acre parcel is viable, blah, 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 blah. But it's going to be at our expense to argue that. And we were told that over the last several years that we've been fighting this, that's how it's all going to come down. I doubt very much the county will pony up any cash to help us fight for our own, one of the 7 municipalities.
And I'd like to thank you and the Deputy Mayor, but you especially, when Councillor Dunn and myself and Councillor Wilkinson went there when this was brought up at County Council, and you did persuade them to look at this again. So, I don't know, opening eyes. But maybe I got another issue with, we have, there's no delegation for here, but we do have some quite knowledgeable people in the audience. If they would wish to speak, is there a chance they could, or how do we do this?
It's usually just by a motion on the floor by council, but if I get through the council questions first, and then we can take a look at that. Councillor Jacobs, you got your answer? Okay. Everybody else good? So, I guess, Danielle, my question is in regard to the specialty crop, the exemption or exception that's included in the existing OP. So we have a situation where we've got a 100-acre or 200-acre parcel that wants to be divided into 25-acre parcels, and there's a specific reason why. So the appeal process, we have to be able to prove, so we're going to have to spend some money to prove why this must be done or must be allowed. Who then decides whether our arguments are good or not? Is it the county again?
Good question. Actually, the Planning Act is just going through some changes that will come into effect very soon. We're waiting for them to reach royal assent. So I think it's necessary to clarify two things. The appeal is to appeal the decision of county council now to, if they were to adopt the OPA. So the municipality could appeal a decision. And again, you would have to bring forward your own evidence to refute that. Alternatively, the county OP currently has a provision that says, and if you're a specialty crop and you do a specialty crop study, we'll develop policies from there. So I think what item 14 in the memo is saying is that that option is really available at any time to anybody. So the provision to say, hey, there's specialty crop areas in Essex County and we need to study those more, that's there. We know that. The ability to change the county OP, that's always there as well. So in the scenario you brought forward, we would have to consider an amendment to the local OP as well as an amendment to the county OP. In both scenarios, the proponent, whether it's through an appeal or an applicant, they would be required to provide all of that supporting documentation.
Okay, thanks. So Councillor Berbicki, did you want to?
I'm just maybe a show of hands if anybody would like to speak before.
Well,
but I'd like to make a motion if anybody's out in the audience that'd like to speak.
Pardon me? So, good question. With our agricultural professionals sitting in the audience this evening, is there anyone that would like to speak to this if given the opportunity? Few hands go up. All right, so Councillor Rubicki, you move that we open the floor, and supported by Councillor Jacobs. All in favor? Carried. So one at a time, and if you're going to say the same thing over and over again, one. How's that? And again, introduction, address, and off you go.
Peter Bernardo, 323 Road 3, Leamington. I've farmed in this community for 60 years. We not only have the earliest ground in Ontario, we also have the most diverse ethnic base. And one is as important as the other. And these ethnic people that are coming in here now are of the same metal that our fathers and grandfathers were 50, 60, 70 years ago. And I know my dad started on 5 acres because he couldn't buy 10. And Bernardo Farms is now 3,600 acres in assembly. These guys come here, they work their hearts out, they've got to get started. Mr. Neufeld made a good point. They can't afford to buy 50 acres or 100 acres. But they can squiggle 25 somehow with a vendor take back and get going. And today, your Loblaws and your Zehrs of the world are starting to go back to product in close by. I forget what they call it. Pardon me? There we go, buy local. And they're very, very serious, which opens up a new opportunity for these people who are ready to go back truck farming for all kinds of vegetables. And when the rest of the county looks at us with their clay farms, that opportunity isn't afforded to them. But we have it. And I think that's something that we really got to push. We've got so much potential in this area with our diverse population and land. A shame to lock it out on a 100-acre purchase. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, members of council and administration. I appreciate you allowing us time to talk. Paul Thiessen, 1315 Mercier Road 1. So a couple of items that I've jotted down. One is, in the event you do buy a 100-acre parcel and there's a surplus dwelling on it, will you be able to sever the surplus dwelling off? And if you're not allowed to sever the surplus dwelling, we're going to end up with a lot of either rental properties, and you're forcing us to become landlords or slumlords in some cases. The town will lose out on this because the tax base will be gone because the houses will be coming down. We're not going to put the money into them. That's not our job. We're not in the business of renting. So you talk about who the winners and losers are. Beginning farmers are losers in this. The town is going to be a loser in this, and quite honestly, I believe the farmers that are currently farming, we're going to lose out in this as well by being forced into jobs that we don't want to do or that we're not equipped to do. Secondly, you talk about protecting farmland, and OMAFRA wants larger parcels to protect the farmland. Take a drive down County Road 18, take a drive down 46 towards Windsor, take a drive down any of the major roads out in the county, and people aren't just buying 25-acre parcels and putting up their 10,000 square foot house. They're buying 50 and 100-acre parcels, throwing a couple hobby horses in the front, or just mowing the lawn. What has that done to protect farming? It hasn't protected farming. It's just chewing up farmland that is now out of production. Take a drive out to Waterloo. Take a drive out to Guelph, Toronto. How are the 100-acre parcels working out there? They're not. A 100-acre parcel is okay until the municipality needs housing. And then it's okay to chop it up into quarter-acre lots and sell it off for housing. If you want to protect farmland, stop the urban sprawl. That's how you protect the farmland. How do you protect the farmland? You let the farmers do their job. You talk about OMAFRA shoving this down our throats. OMAFRA, Ministry of Agriculture, PMRA, and the list goes on, are not helping farmers anymore. They're listening to the people in Toronto dictate the rules and not letting us do our jobs. They're taking away the tools, they're tying our hands. And that's a whole nother discussion. We could go on and on with that. So that's all I've got for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for representing our interests in this matter at county level. Further to the comments that have just recently been made, from a business standpoint, nobody likes to have their hands tied. And if you look across our municipality, we may have a large number of 10-hectare parcels. But in the end, they're not being farmed as 10 hectare by the larger farming operations. They're being farmed as 50, as 100-acre parcels as part of a larger operation. But within a business sense, to be able to manage a business, it is better to have it in the smaller portions, because if I end up in financial trouble and I am the sole owner of a 100-acre piece, I have no options. When the bank calls my notes, I'm out. If I have the option to be able to sell off a 25-acre piece, that gives me flexibility. If I'm doing a generational transfer and am willing to invest in the next generation, I can risk saddling them with a 10-hectare parcel, possibly supporting them financially to help them with the debt servicing. My land base is my retirement. Am I willing to risk my entire retirement on a generational transfer? No, I'm not. Then I'm better off to sell to potentially someone from out of the area, maybe even from out of the country, that can write me a check for the full 100-acre block all in one shot. And as far it was mentioned about the ministry not representing agricultural best interest, I would definitely agree with that. And if we're passing laws that limit the ability of agriculture to react, perhaps franchises should become illegal, and if you're going to transfer, you have to transfer the whole chain, that you're no longer allowed to sell a franchise. I don't really see any difference to what's being proposed within agriculture. But thank you for your support.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Can you tell us your name, Mark?
All right, so I think we're getting the point that you want to keep that the 25 acres, right? Yeah. Okay. You're hearing us say the same thing, right? Okay. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And yeah, fantastic points brought up by all you guys. But I'm just wondering, I see point number 13 that came out of the consensus memo, that the consultant undertook extensive public engagement process, had an open house, all that kind of stuff. Did our farming community, did we go out to this? Like, I never even heard about this open house, to tell you the truth. I didn't see it come across my emails or anything like that. But I'm wondering, did you gentlemen, did you see anything like that to go and give your input at that point? So none out there. That speaks volumes, I think, because I thought there was some...
Danielle, if you have
great
a
information.
different perspective on that?
I do. So as the steering committee meeting, we all contributed the obvious partners within Essex County of farming associations. So from Leamington, I reached out to a number of our farming associations, provided contact names and numbers to the consultant. So we went that extra step. OVGB, the vegetable growers, farmers that I know had contacted me to say they were interested, provided those to the consultant, and the consultant said they reached out on numerous occasions. They were down here doing not just the public open house, but the consultants also did stakeholders. So not to discredit, I just would like to, I would just like to say that no, Leamington, we did actually go that extra mile. We handed in a number of names and numbers to do that. However, it doesn't mean that we, in the next process, that it still can't request that certain people be contacted, certain experts be contacted prior to a decision being made or as part of any next process that will come.
Councillor Verbeke?
Well, Danielle, in your professional opinion, hopefully if they have these interviews and stuff, that they don't do it between April and October. So, that's all.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. Danielle, I want to go back to the steering committee for a moment. With the planners going along with the recommendation of this, how injurious is that to the decision for this council when it goes back? I'm not being disrespectful to your position. Please don't take it out of context, but I'm just curious with you and the rest of the planners supporting this. And now we as a council are going back and saying, no way we're touching this. Has that injured our position because you are the planners? Are are we butting heads on this type thing? And again, I'm not being disrespectful to you or your position. I don't want you to take it out of context.
No, I totally understand. So yes, as planners, we've brought forward a consistent message that we are in support of this for land use reasons. If someone were to appeal the decision or go against it, it's not likely that I would be called as your expert witness in the agricultural. So in addition to the planning consultant who really just coordinated the public process for this, the study itself was done by a very involved socioeconomic specialist, agriculturalist. That's the type of person that you would need to find. So in this case, like I said, you would not be calling me as your expert in this case. You would have to retain someone else. So I don't think that by going against staff's recommendation, you've lessened your opportunities there.
So here's my question to kind of wrap this up is I'm all of council saying, yeah, no, we're not supporting this. So to simply just say we're not supporting your recommendation that's in here, is that enough of a message to the county, or should we be coming up with a resolution of our own, a motion of our own to say, no, we want to remain at?
When I reread through the county, the minutes and the direction, it seems that they're also looking for input. And so I think that a lot of the things that were mentioned at the last meeting that we've discussed here, you could bring forward. In the past, when this began, staff brought forward a report, recommendations to move forward, and that was exactly it. I believe the CAO at the time drafted a letter on behalf of council that listed all of those concerns, and that was presented to the manager of planning services, who's really the project lead on this for him to consider.
Okay, so then I'm looking to either Ms. Percy or Mr. Neufeld on advice. What should we do here with this recommendation other than turning it down? But to me, it doesn't mean anything. So we need to send a message to the county.
We
Okay, do you want to say that out loud so all of council can hear it? Because I'm not going to try to repeat.
Sorry. So the recommendation in the report is just that. It's a recommendation of staff. Council always has the ability to put forward whatever motion they wish. So instead of voting on the motion as is and voting against it, you can put the motion forward that as it reads there, but not supported. And then you could vote in favor of that if you choose.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. That's fine coming from us, but I mean, we have the experts are out here who are telling us what their position is on this. Is it not beneficial to have them involved in something like this, or does this strictly have to come from us?
If this discussion is made public at the county level, then I would invite them to come to county and as delegations to present their side of it, yeah. But Hilda and I, that's our job, is to represent the decision of this council up at the county level. So,
and I understand that, but in addition to that, maybe a letter of opposition of these individuals to council might not hurt. Are they prepared to make a statement in that respect?
Mr. Neufeld?
Well, I've been sitting here trying to figure out the most strategic way to go at this, because as Danielle has pointed out, if we go forward with our official plan before the county official plan, then we will, if we assume we'll leave it at the 25-acre level, it's unlikely that the county is going to approve our official plan, in which case we would then appeal that it wasn't approved, at which time we would then have to come forward with the evidence that Danielle has talked about, a specialty crop, why it's different here, in order to substantiate that our official plan should be passed by the county, which would be contrary to the provincial policy statement. If, on the other hand, we wait for the county's official plan, which is kind of the way we're talking right now, that the county is going to do an official plan amendment, then there would be the public consultation, which Danielle has spoken of, at which point the municipality as well as individuals would be able to go to voice their opinion, right? They pass the official plan amendment regardless, at which point we would then be in a position to appeal, I think, the county's official plan to the province to talk about why the county's official plan is not appropriate for us. I haven't quite figured out which way is the more better way to go forward. But for tonight's purposes, I'm going to suggest that what I'm hearing from council is that they are not going to approve this recommendation. For tonight's purposes, that may be enough to allow administration to turn our minds to what would be the best strategy of moving forward, and it may be in conjunction with our farming community as well. I don't think that there's anything more that absolutely needs to be done tonight. You're making your point, and then we can figure out which way we can, the strategy of moving forward to achieve the best outcome.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councillor Verbeke, I had you.
Thanks, Brother Mayor. Just, I don't know, I had to agree with you there for a minute, but with the idea of sending something other than just a no, but, with the ethnic and the severance and the business and the hands-on and the cannabis, you can make good money on some small acreage, so that should all be put in there too as another specialty crop.
Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship. Larry brought up a point about how this has been fought, and you've all brought it up many times before. Actually, the farmers had lawyers and other information they brought forth that won their case before. Can we rely on some of that information and bring it forward again
Well, we didn't win the case. We just delayed what could be perceived as the inevitable. But, Mr. Neufeld.
I think that it's moved to the point, and that's right. We've deferred this. We've held it off while more research was being done. Once we get to the point, though, where there will be a formal appeal of the official plan, county or our official plan not being approved by the county, we will be required to have studies by experts. With all due respect to the people in attendance here tonight, what they will be looking for is evidence of the specialty crop as one component. They'll be looking for studies that are being conducted by consultants to become evidence in their decision-making process. Anecdotal evidence won't likely carry the day. It will require specific information that will be used as evidence for the hearing. So we're into a different process. That yes, at this point we can write letters. The farmers can write letters. They can appeal. They can take part in the public consultation process. But once we get into the actual formal appeal, more specific and professional studies will need to be done in order to sway the decision-making people.
So then, if I'm understanding, what I'm hearing again is just we vote down this recommendation and then let admin do some additional work for us.
Certainly, if that is council's, if it's council's intention to to continue to fight this process, I would suggest that simply starting with voting against this is certainly their prerogative, and then turning our minds to a strategy on how we can go forward in the best way.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But, okay, so further to that, Peter, you're saying that if we need these extremely professional opinions, varied, because there'll be, say, financial, there'll be, like you said, the specialty crop, you're looking at a number of different types of professional studies, not just one across the board. This isn't good for specialized farming. So if we're going to go that route, we also have to be prepared to invest a fair bit of dollars into this, is what I'm saying, thinking, hearing. So then further to that, are we prepared to go that far down the road? I think that's something we need to consider at some point in time. Yeah, it's great to say no, but are we going to put our money basically where our objections are going to be? Because it sounds to me like it isn't just going to be a matter of our administration fighting the battle. So I think that's something we have to consider. Am I right?
Yeah, you are. Yes. Peter?
Yeah, and that is correct. And that's part of what I'm struggling with. And because as administration, we always want to advise council of the options and what some of the considerations might be. And again, with all due respect to our farming community, especially the people who are here this evening, council will at some point need to struggle with using general taxpayer dollars to protect the rights of the individual farmers. Is that the role the municipality is willing to play, the council is willing to play at this time? Or is this a fight that really the individual farmers need to take on, even as a group, need to take on financially? I'm not making a recommendation or a comment one way or the other on that, but that is what I was sitting here thinking about. How do I and how do we as the senior administration best advise council when it comes to the reasonable expenditure of taxpayers' dollars to bring forward the fight of a select group within the community. Now, if it's viewed by council, I'll give you the counterpoint. If it's viewed by council that it is in the best interest of the municipality generally for our farmers to be able to conduct business in the manner in which Mark Lane stated, and Paul and Peter, then certainly using general taxpayer dollars to do something like that is appropriate. But I don't know where council will fall on that. I don't know where administration would fall on that just yet either. But certainly there will be financial resources and human resources that will have to be put towards launching a fight against the official plan process, whether we go first and have ours turned down or the county goes first and we need to appeal. Those are my comments.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to make sure I was correct in that, because I know council's hesitation once we start getting into what we see as losing money. Sip and savor comes to mind. It's all well and good. Well, the ship's sailing, but if that ship starts taking on water, everybody's looking to bail. So just so that it's out there, so that the flag's been raised, that we know there could be potential to cost us more money, and that's all I wanted. To me, fights are worth fighting for, but it's just always, once the dollars start, the amounts start creeping up, and I hate to keep using these little
But as it stands
cliches.
tonight,
Yes.
we want to continue taking the stand that we've had and to say no to the county. We don't agree. We want to stay with the 25 acres. That's what we want to say, and that's what we will be saying by however we vote on the recommendation, right? And still, it's going to take some staff time to put something together for us to submit, to say why, but I think that's well worth it. So we'll fight as far as we can and cross that bridge when we get to it if it's going to cost us some money. So see where it goes. Councillor?
One other point, too, I think we have to let this play out. The other municipalities will be looking at this same issue, the same memo that's coming to them. They're going to be discussing it at their council.
Yeah.
You said that Kingsville already has reconsideration for the
Well,
position they're at.
they did on the nights that we were arguing it. I don't know where they are on it now. And the other municipalities, it's not even in their realm of consideration. I think it's fair in saying that. I mean, I would think Lakeshore would be paying a real big attention to this, but I don't get anything from them. And the other communities, it's not. And it should be. I mean, you look at the wineries that are opening up, and they're not opening on 100 acres of land necessarily, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll do our best again at the county level to convince them of those things.
Right, that
but-
support from the other municipalities is
Yeah.
welcomed. If Kingsville wants to join the fight,
Yep.
by all means, get in here with
Absolutely.
us.
Yep. So, anyway, let's wrap it up. Everybody's done. So, what would you like to do with the recommendation? What does happen? Okay, so then we need to, so I need somebody to move and second it so that we can vote against. Okay. So moved by Councillor Verbicki. Yep. And support by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Okay, motion is defeated. So now, we'll just leave it? We've already discussed it enough tonight. Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us too. Appreciate it. The next report on the cash for merchandise licensing has been withdrawn for this evening. Sure.
Administration has requested that the cash for merchandise schedule to licensing bylaw be withdrawn. I inadvertently left a requirement out of the schedule, and we'd like an opportunity to circulate that to those stakeholders who will be impacted for their feedback. So we'll bring it back at the beginning of January.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next report, which is one regarding the renewal license agreement with Peely Wings for the rental of non-motorized water sport equipment at Seacliff Park. Ms. Orton.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. As council will recall, in July, a report was brought forward regarding a proposal by Peeling Wings to offer non-motorized water sport equipment for rent at Seacliff Beach. They did provide that service to some of our beachgoers this past summer and are looking forward to doing that again in 2018. So it's recommended that council again consider the request by Peely Wings to allow them to use a portion of Seacliff Beach for the rental of kayaks and paddle boards. Administration is not aware of any complaints that were raised regarding the provision of that service, and in fact, we did receive positive feedback. It's recommended that the terms of an agreement remain the same as those contained within the original, and those are set out in the report. Looking at a term commencing on June 30th, 2018, there is a little typo in the report, terminating on September 15th, 2018. So just for a short period of time out at the beach. The pilot project commenced partway through the season last year for the purposes of determining the feasibility of the type of activity on the waterfront. There was no consideration for the use of lands. Again, administration is recommending continuing the project without consideration for this full season. Regarding the location of the paddle boards and kayaks, they were located in front of the volleyball courts. You can see that outlined on the aerial view. Looking at potentially that location again, although the agreement does allow for the municipality to direct where those water sports would be located. So we may rearrange the location this year in consultation with Peely Wings. So the recommended action is that council authorize an agreement with Peely Wings for use of a portion of Seacliff Beach for the rental of non-motorized water sport equipment from June 30th till September 15th, 2018, and that the Director of Legal and Legislative Services be authorized to execute that agreement.
Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship, I'm just curious, I know you said it was only a partial summer down there, but was it profitable to them?
I think the weather didn't cooperate as much as they would have liked, although they felt that it was still worthwhile to come out again in 2018 and try it. They did see a lot of interest, but again, their only concern was a little bit of the weather. It didn't really cooperate so much on the weekends.
Okay. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. We keep going back to taxpayers' dollars and support and everything. Why are we giving this to them for nothing? They had their trial period. I can understand that. I guess it was successful to a point, again, depending on weather. That's no different than, I guess, our services that we provide on the beach, as well as depending on weather. I don't know why we're doing this for nothing for them. That's, you know, if I want to go set up a hot dog stand down there, you're going to let me have it for nothing. I guess that's where I'm going.
Well, it's looking at whether or not the municipality wants to offer more of those services. So it's really a situation where we're actually getting some benefit out of having them there as well, to see if that's something we want to expand upon and use our resources to find more of those activities. So again, a continuation of the pilot project.
Well, I'd feel more comfortable if there was some split in profit or something. I mean, we're maintaining the beach, we're grooming it, we're doing all this thing, and I understand that we're trying to encourage our waterfront. However, I just feel that we're giving this away at our expense, basically. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? Councillor Hammond?
Your Worship, thank you. I agree with Councillor Jacobs. You know, when I read through the report, I thought, you know, there's beach maintenance, and not that they're going to, you know, in reading through the report, I saw where they have to pick up all their trash and all of other things and maintain it, but there's still some beach maintenance that we should be given some compensation for. So I think they should be charged, whether it even be a nominal fee. I think there should be a cost attached to it.
Mr. Neufeld?
Similar to the discussion that we had last time with regard to food services, the plan for the waterfront is it's evolving. And it's important for us to be able to reach out to our partners in the community to try new things. I just think it's a little premature to be asking them to split some of the revenue when neither we nor they know whether it is actually profitable. The reason they want to extend the pilot project, and the reason that administration feels strongly about doing it in that way, is because the weather really didn't cooperate that well after we came up with the idea of the pilot project. They haven't got a full sense of whether it is a profitable venture, even while they're not paying anything to the municipality. They still have to have somebody there. They have to take their equipment down there. They do have their insurance. They have costs associated with this. And I'm afraid that if we start to ask them to share in their revenue before they've even know whether they're going to break even or not is contradictory to what we're trying to do, and that is get people down to our waterfront. So I would strongly encourage council to, I understand the concern. I think it's premature, and I think we feel quite strongly that they be given another year, because, boy, to not even have a chance to see if it's a workable thing, how else are we going to get things like paddle boards and canoes and kayaks down on our waterfront if we're going to ask them to share in their revenues right from the get-go before they know whether it's profitable?
Deputy Mayor?
We own other property down there, do we not? With a restaurant on there? Do we not? Burgess? Do we charge them rent?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I ended up...
I assume we do, right? I mean, it's a bit of a convoluted situation down there.
Yeah, we do, but they also know that they have a profitable business. They know what their costs are and what they're going to expect in revenues. Peely Wings does not have that indication because the season was too short and hampered by bad weather.
Councillor?
Sorry. Oh, sorry. If I could, I was kind of hoping they weren't paying rent and I'd have a point, but now I don't. I just feel this is a commodity that we can offer our residents without us having to have any money involved. And as far as grooming the beaches, we would be grooming the beaches whether somebody was there or not, because our people have complained that our beaches aren't groomed. So to me, to be able to offer something that isn't costing us anything and yet is enhancing the lives and the experience of our ratepayers and our visitors down there, I don't see that as a deterrent. I think we should jump on more opportunities like that. How many times have we said we shouldn't be in this business, we shouldn't be in the so-and-so business, and we get into it and costs go up and up and up, and then it ends up costing our ratepayers. This to me is we've got the spot. Let's see what we can do, and yet it's not affecting that thing we're going to be looking at tomorrow, and yet it is increasing the quality of life in our community. That's my take on it. I'm not shaking my finger. I would just like you to consider that it is a cool thing to have on the beach. You know, I look at a beach, some waterfront further down, going that way. We've got cool stuff at our beach. We got, first of all, a better looking beach, and then we've got cool stuff. It isn't costing us anything. So I would say let's go for it, at least till we see what they make of it.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. I'm still in disagreement with that, simply because, I mean, and I know where you're coming from, Mr. Neufeld, to entice an individual to set up, but there are no guarantees for anyone going into a business today. And as Deputy Mayor is stating as well, it is public property. It is funded by the taxpayers. It's groomed by the taxpayers. I'm not saying we have to do like it's a 50-50 split, but I think there should be a nominal fee incurred in those particular areas. It's great. I'm going to if I get the property for free, I want to set up a T-shirt shop down there and, you know, work it to death for the summer and say thank you very much and I'm out of here. I guess that's where I'm going with this. I think we should be a nominal fee.
Can I?
Not exorbitant, but do it. And you're going to argue with me, but
No.
that's where I
No,
stand.
I'm just going to talk with you.
Oh, okay.
And without saying it, Mr. Neufeld is making my point. I agree with the deputy mayor, and I agree with you as well. It's just that it is too early in this stage of the development of the waterfront. With the conceptual ideas that are out there that we keep floating around of what we can do on that waterfront as we develop it, then I think that's going to be the time when we say to these guys, hey, by the way, since we're doing this, this, and this, and they're paying us this, this, and this, if you want to continue on, you will be paying us as well, right? It's just year 1.5 with these guys. So it is an experiment. Does it work? Heck yeah. Okay, great. The next year, let's really talk about this, doing it the proper professional way. We get the lease agreement signed up. We get a costing, whatever it's going to be, as our share. So I agree with you, but I agree over here too that right now is not the time to do that because we're not doing anything else down there to attract people yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, if I may go one step further, let's say it's very successful for them. Okay? Now, do they have a lock on it, or can Deputy Mayor come in and open up her business next year because, hey, they made money, I'm going to step in? How do you do that? You have multiple rentals?
Well, a couple of things. I think that one of the things we could do is to request an accounting at the end of the year so that we can get a sense of what the value of that business activity was down on the beach, which would then help us understand what's the threshold, right? Are they making some money? And if they are making that money, that's what we can expect. Whoever is going to have that business, they would make that kind of money, and we'll have a base from which to work to start sharing in profits or revenues. Secondly, if we go beyond this, we would certainly want to look at the RFP process because maybe there are others out there who will want to provide this business or similar business or businesses that will complement this. So certainly they wouldn't have a lock on it. The third thing that I would suggest is that there is a big difference between selling T-shirts at the beach or having paddle boards and kayaks and canoes, because the kayaks and canoes and paddle boards, those will augment the activities that are occurring at the beach, which will bring people down, whereas a T-shirt business is essentially only there for the benefit of the people who are selling the shirts. We being the municipality, we gain by having a business down there offering these options to the people who are down using what is now an extraordinarily beautiful beach. We've heard that over and over again, that people are, what we often hear is, I've never seen the beach looking more beautiful. We want to entice people to come down there, and this is just one more service that we can offer, a unique service that we can offer without a cost to the municipality while we develop the waterfront.
Councillor Hammond?
Yes, thank you. Just a question. The volleyball courts that are there now, do we provide those services for free, or do we charge for the use of those?
When we started, it was free. I don't know if we're into Mr. Sharon?
Yes, Your Worship, we do charge. Now, since we built the courts, we charge per slot for the use of the volleyball courts.
But originally, when it was just on the beach volleyball, there was no charge there. But we had to. It started to grow, so we developed it from the free aspect. It got bigger. We realized we had to control it, and then cost fees, which is kind of my same thinking with regard to the kayaks and stuff. So, Councillor?
Thank you. In light of being enlightened through the conversation that's taken place in respect to this, we have the Peely Wings wants to do paddle boards. Are we going to maybe encourage other individuals that would go along with your vision? Invite them to come down and open up? We say, hey, we're going to give you a year's free access to the beach. There's no charge. Bring in your whatever. Is that a possibility? Then if you're going to do this, let's open it up. Let's not restrict it to one individual. And as I say, stay within your vision. I'm not saying get a T-shirt guy there or something, but I think you know where I'm going.
Yep. Mr. Neufeld?
Well, it's interesting because Peely Wings reached out to us to explore this. I don't believe we've had anybody else reach out to us. So, you know, when you get one of your local businesses saying, hey, we'd like to give something a try, and it's in keeping with our vision, well, you want to encourage that kind of behavior. So if there are other companies that are out there that are interested in offering a service that's in keeping with our vision, because you'll note that what this says is non-motorized. The vision does not include having motorized watercraft like Sea-Doos zipping up and down the beach to the extent where people aren't going to want to be down there anymore. So if there are other ideas, we're all open to giving that some consideration, but we haven't heard from anybody else.
And I understand that, but I guess I'm looking at where, here's our economic development guy sitting back there taking it all in tonight. I mean, something that would enhance what we're looking for. And I agree with you, I don't think we need jet skis running up. There's enough of them running out there now. But, you know, maybe somebody wants canoes. You know, I don't know if Peely Wings is doing that, or somebody wants a rowboat, or, you know, whatever, that for beach activities. Maybe even selling umbrellas and lawn chairs and stuff like that. So just a thought, Your Worship.
Mm-hmm. Councillor Berbiki?
Were the mayor, if I could quote the deputy mayor saying, we'll give it one more year, then I would say I would like to move the recommendations for one more year.
Okay. I thought that was well done. Seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on that motion. Well, okay. But that's what this recommendation is anyway for 1 year. Okay, so you're moving the recommendation. Yes, yep, yep. Okay, so all in favor of that motion then? Opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Next item up is one regarding the architectural services for the renovation of the Leamington, and that's all it says, but I know it's the library. It just says renovation of the Leamington, but I know it's library, so. Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you. My report does say Leamington Library. So this report is to ask council's approval for sole sourcing the architectural services for the renovation of the Leamington Library. You'll see in the report some background information on the Leamington Library, the fact that we, as municipality, are responsible for providing the facility, and the County of Essex, through the Library Board, provides for the services. I included the quote right out of the operations agreement to show that the municipality is responsible for the exterior and the building, but the board is responsible for the interior renovations and decorations. And as I state later on in the report, I have already written to the board to let them know that we are doing some significant renovations, and hoping that they will properly budget for that. My understanding is that those sorts of expenses will be covered out of their reserves, so that it didn't show up in their budget. There have been studies done about the current Leamington Library needs in Leamington. The current Leamington Library is about 7,700 square feet in size. The study that was done a number of years ago, in 2006, I believe, indicated that the library should be larger, almost twice the size, 15,000 square feet. If we were to do build a 15,000 square foot library, the cost would be somewhere between $3 and $4 million. And you'll recall that at our recent strategic planning meeting, we talked about this, the fact that we haven't put money away yet in reserves for a new library at that cost, but that we also recognize that the current state of our library facility was not acceptable, and that if we wanted to do some significant renovations, we could probably get 10 more years at least out of this building before we considered something else. That would allow us time to start putting money away, and in the meantime, our residents would have a current, up-to-date library space, which I'll go so far as to say that they deserve. So council had indicated they wanted to see some movement on our library, as it is one of the 3 pillars that we keep talking about for uptown revitalization. And this comes back to why I am recommending and asking council to approve PASA Architectural Services. Joe Paso is the individual, his firm is the firm that is working with the Bank Theater for their renovations. And given that the 3-pillar theory, I thought it would be important to have continuity between our art center, our Bank Theater, and the library. And incidentally, maybe this is a time, Brianna, maybe I could ask you to pull up some pictures. Joe Pass's firm has provided some basic ideas already. This is just the footprint. So let's go to the next slide because it shows it a little better. The brown is the current footprint. The blue is the addition that we are looking at. We kind of gave him an idea of what kind of a budget we may have. But you can see the blue along Erie Street and then out front towards John. Would you go to the next slide, please? There's a better indication of what we're looking at. So you can see, and yes, it's not your eyes. That is a wavy wall of blue glass all along Erie Street. It is intended to recognize the importance of water and wave action in Leamington. And you'll note that if you think back to what the Bank Theater looks like, the blue glass is the same. So when you walk by the Bank Theater, you'll say, hey, that reminds me of the library, and vice versa. The library reminds me of the Bank Theater. Go to the next slide, please. This is the top picture is the front. That would be at John. You'll notice the part that is along Erie Street is designed to actually be taller than what is the current library, and that for 2 reasons. Obviously is to bring the outside in, to flood the building with natural light, but with it being at a higher level, it will also encourage sunlight from the west to come in through the top. Again, in the bottom left-hand corner is that wavy wall we were talking about, which will allow for some unique areas inside for chairs and sitting. And then in the bottom right-hand corner is what you'd be looking at from John Street. You'll notice that the trees are still there, which is an important aspect, as that's the southern exposure. And those trees would help shade in the summertime. Could you go to the next one? Is there one more, Brianna? That's it? Would you go back then, please, to the second slide? No, next one, third one, sorry. So that is a high-level concept of what we can do with our current library building. I'm just looking. So with respect to the cost, is it generally, someone on council will say, well, don't we want to go out for RFP, and shouldn't we have a number of people bidding on this? In my report, though, for taking on these sorts of projects, there is a standard, different percentages charged against the overall price. Looking at the guidelines, this is well within the percentages that are recommended as an additional cost when you're looking at architectural design. And so having that base, we already know that this is well within the limits and actually a fairly good deal. And then there is also the issue of how we're going to pay for this. We still have at least $600,000 in the Collins estate, another almost $100,000 sitting at the county level for capital improvements. And as we move forward, we will be able to become more specific on the price, but certainly the $700,000 to $1 million price tag, the architect feels is quite sufficient for what we are designing. I'll take it one step further. When council, if council were to approve this, we already have some internal drawings produced by Mr. Passa, and it would be my intention to immediately reach out to the county librarian, chief librarian, CEO, as well as the librarians who are working at the Leamington branch, and providing them with these drawings, providing them with the internal, go back to the first slide, please, Brianna, providing them with that new footprint, some ideas that Mr. Passa has already put down as to how to now best provide the interior space, but looking for input from those who work there as how we can best now design the interior to provide those services that we want to provide. One of the things that I do want to point out is, while we recognize that the square footage is not the 15,000 square foot that was originally recommended in 2006, library services have significantly changed. And we believe that, that this space would be sufficient for a number of years, and the services that we hope to be able to have provided, we are planning on including the installation of a music recording studio, as well as a video recording studio, so as to engage our youth and provide new technology and experiences at our library, in keeping with what modern libraries now provide. With that, I'm hoping that council will consider this, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, you know this is near and dear to my heart, and I see this as a fabulous upturn for our community, for Uptown, for the library, for our residents, and on it goes. I recall that report in 2006 when the library CAO at the time and the top board members came and presented to council. And you're right, that was 11 years ago, and certainly libraries have changed. We weren't carrying cell phones around 11 years ago like we are now. Digital media and the digital services that the library now provides. You can download music, you can download, I do the Rosetta Stone. There's so many things that were not available back then. All kinds of books and e-books and all that kind of stuff. So yes, it has evolved, and there isn't the need for the physical space as there was then. And then on to the using PASA architects. Well, those of us that went to the presentation at the Bank Theatre were more than impressed with what the plans are for that. And for us to have an opportunity to have somebody right like that do drawings for us and stay in that vein. That's a sophisticated looking interior as well as an exterior at the Bank Theater as well as here. So for us to just quickly move into that, I don't have any qualms about going out and doing a RFP. I'm more than pleased. A couple things I wanted to know though. Are you looking at a second floor at all with the with that larger? Because the roof line looks like it's higher.
The roof line is higher. It's not a second floor. It's only higher to allow for light to come in from the west side as well.
Okay. And then I was wondering about timelines. When you think that this could actually start becoming a physical change.
Well, when I suggested that I was hoping to have it completed by September, Mr. Passa I think his jaw opened and he said, no, you don't want to do that. But the reason given was good. He said, you know, a lot of the educational organizations have that September deadline, so you're working against that. If you consider November, December, by the end of the year, now you probably get a better price. People are available. We can get started on this right away, but it would take discussions with the library to say, are we going to continue to offer services in here while we're working on it? Do we want to move to another location? Maybe we set up at the recreation complex for the time frame, but it is really my intention that this would be completed within 2018.
And further, if I may, I think that's fantastic. And I was going to ask if you thought the library would be out of service. I sat on the library board when they were building both the new LaSalle branch and the Woodsley Credit Union branch in Woodsley, as well as the Toldo Center. And I mean, they're fabulous looking buildings. I was lucky enough to be in Toronto in October, at the end of October, and I spent the day in the Toronto Library at a conference. And I'm telling you, there's thousands of people. I know there's an element to our society that likes to say libraries no longer matter. Well, that is dead wrong. I'm telling you, thousands of people. It was crawling. It was like an anthill. There were so many people. Not everyone is able to afford a computer. Not everyone is able to buy books. Not everyone has an e-reader. People need a warm place to stay. People need to use public computers to access things like jobs and so on. There's so many things that we can offer to our people. So I sure don't want to hear that libraries are obsolete, because I'm ready to fight you on that one. Because to me, it's fabulous. There's so many people in our community that say that they use our library. And then I wanted to also bring up the fact that maybe at some point in time we should look, because as I mentioned those libraries, if you noticed, I mentioned the names in front of them. Those were all sponsored, which allowed some bigger, better things to happen. When you look at the Toldo Arena, not Toldo, sorry, Toldo is a portion, is the library portion, but the Atlas Tube Center, the library is called the Toldo within it. So we could even look at some point in time, perhaps if we want to upscale what we're going to do, look at a sponsor or a name or something like that to make that, to give us a little bit more cash flow, to add some extra special things. Again, I want us to do the best we can possibly do to make it another jewel in our community. So I'm hoping I've convinced my colleagues.
Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. Mr. Neufeld, you said that the cost of approximately $1 million, is that sort of a, what cost is that? Like, is that what you would look at, the $1 million? And would that be for contingencies? And if not, what percentage above that will we be looking at for contingencies? Because you know yourself, when you start getting into renovations and tear down a wall, anything could happen.
The discussion point was, look, let's not have somebody draw something that we can't afford. We gave him a a ballpark figure of between, I think we said between 700,000 and $1 million. This is what he came up with and feels confident that this can be done between 700,000 and $1 million. With some of the interior, just to be clear, this would be taking it right down to the cement floor, cutting, for example, cutting grooves in the cement floor so that the electrical and fiber optics, that sort of thing, can be installed right into the floor, brought up through the pillars so that there would be seamless connectivity within the library. So there are interior works that would also be completed.
So in other words, this is a projected cost. When it comes down to the nitty-gritty, that'll come back to us for referral then at that point in time. Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Councillor Verbicki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish we could have had these pictures in our report, because then I would have probably whipped out my old magnifying glass to see how many square feet you're adding onto here. Do you have that number?
Yeah, I was looking at Mr. Sharon because I have a number in my head, but I wanted to see what he was thinking. I can do that. We're adding about 1,500 square feet.
Okay, so, and this is all on our own property. We're not acquiring any property for this.
That is correct. We're not acquiring any property. And incidentally, just for clarification, first, the fountain isn't in this picture. That doesn't mean that the fountain is necessarily disappearing. The fountain is suffering from age. There needs to be some significant fixes done to the fountain if we intend on keeping it. As you know, that the initially it was a gift from the Italian community, and the Italian community, some representatives of the Italian community are aware that the fountain needs some attention. That's just not to indicate that the decision has been made to remove the fountain. I just want to make that clear. Secondly, I didn't include the pictures in the report because, quite frankly, we have not engaged Mr. Passa yet, and I didn't want these pictures to be available. In my opinion, it wouldn't be fair to have those sorts of diagrams out there. Council doesn't approve it, and another architectural firm picks up with it and runs with the same sorts of ideas. So we asked Mr. Passa specifically for his permission to show these on the screen. I too would have liked to have included them, but that wouldn't have been fair.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. In response to the Deputy Mayor's comment, you're hoping that we'll be convinced, is what you said. Well, I don't need much convincing on this one. You know, the library is near and dear to our heart as well. But I try to take that hat off, you know, and put it here, and think of this in terms of how this is going to benefit our town. And, you know, we all sit up here, we are lobbed constantly criticisms about our uptown. And, you know, we don't have the physical ability to go and, you know, make certain changes at time that we wish we could. But this is where we can, you know, create change. We've heard the terms rejuvenation, revitalization, all this type of stuff. This is within our control here to set an example of how, you know, we want our downtown to be going forward, you know, and I believe in that anchors theory as well. Bank Theater, library, the LAC. This is where we got our skin in the game, and we can put our, you know, our money behind our mouth as well. So, no, just because I am very pro-library, and yes, I agree with the Deputy Mayor that it's the ignorant that we hear out there too often, you know, whether it be on social media, whatever. Those comments, I put them off to the side as well. I think that is comments of the ignorant, basically. I'm very happy to support this, and I think this is a big shot in the arm for Uptown Leamington. I am looking forward to the criticism that comes our way, you know, and what are you doing? We can point to this one, point to the Bank Theater, which we're already doing. This is a good move in the right direction for Uptown Leamington.
Councillor Hammond.
Your Worship, thank you. Yeah, obviously I think we're all on the same page here. In dealing with Joe and through Rob and Peter, he's got a lot of great vision, and I think that it'll move on to that. I think down the road even further, I think we need to look at, when it becomes available, some parking. Because I think that's the only drawback to keeping it at the current location, is we need more parking. And I think that, and there will be a time when something will come up that we'll be able to
Mr. Duval?
utilize that.
Parking generally, yes, and accessibility parking is on our radar for this construction job as well. We will take that into consideration and hopefully have some improved accessibility parking with this project.
I'm really excited it's happening. Moved by Councillor Jacobs, support by somebody who's not in conflict. No, I'm just kidding. Deputy Mayor, just have a little fun. I was looking that way when I said it. So we got a motion on the floor. I just want to say that I'm really excited about this. And when I saw the tie-in, as you said, Mr. Councillor Wilkinson and Peter, to the two different facilities, how it will be our skin in the games. I think it's fantastic. When I think about the county library budget, I can't help but look on there and say there's like 2 or 3 of us that only have one library in our municipality, and the other one's got 3 or 4, and I think we should have 3 or 4 so that the rest of the guys can fund ours too. So, but just thinking out there a little bit. But I look forward to this. So we do have the recommendation on the floor. No more comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Good. And I think it's the final report. This is the one that I've been waiting for all night. Oh, 2 more. All right. The report regarding the investment update. Ms. Roach.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. In April 2015, Council approved an update to the investment policy. The revised investment policy includes the following objectives: adherence to statutory requirements, preservation of capital, maintaining liquidity, and earning a competitive rate of return. So this report is part of the annual reporting requirements to comply with the investment policy approved by Council. So in 2016, financial markets were extremely volatile, and there were abundance of negative market speculation. Although the total portfolio with one investment program experienced marginally positive returns for the prior 14 months, there were significant market losses that were experienced in the equity and bond markets. So in the latter part of 2016, there were also worldwide changes that speculated further volatility in the financial markets, and as such, the investments were prudently redeemed to reduce investment exposure, market volatility, and ensure preservation of capital as outlined in the municipality's investment policy. So Table 1 provides the gain that was realized over the 14-month period of $128,000, or 0.3% of total gain for the investments. So the funds were deposited into the municipality's general bank account and earn an interest rate of the Bank of Canada prime rate less 0.75%. So in the 2017 budget, administration recommended investing in GICs to comply with the established objectives of the investment policy. But 2017 proved to be a very interesting year with the financial markets. So the financial markets did not observe those anticipated volatility as they were speculated. So for the first time since September 2010, and that is a typo on my report, I apologize, the Bank of Canada announced increases to interest rates in both July and September of 2017. And these announcements have a direct impact on the prime rate, which is currently at 3.2%. So currently the portfolio is held at 100% cash and is earning 2.5% annual interest. So the 2017 budget did include interest and investment income of $830,000 for the entire year. Year to date, at the end of November, we have earned just over $1 million in interest. So administration is currently reviewing alternatives and projected cash flows for the 2018 draft budget to determine the most appropriate type of investments that will ascertain the optimal balance of the objectives outlined in the investment policy. So I'm pleased to report tonight that all investments over the reporting period of this report have been made in accordance with the investment policy. So it is recommended that the investment results for the municipality of Leamington for the months June 2016 through November 2017 inclusive be received for information.
Questions? Councillor Verbicki moves, seconded by Councillor Dunn. I really want to say, I told you so, but imagine what that million would have been if it had still been in the equity markets. But, council votes. Yeah, no conflict. I'm not making any money on it. I just wanted to stay in the one funds, that's all. Anyway, I know they've done really well for the county over the years too, and they've been in a lot longer than we have been. Do you still have some in the one fund? You still do? No, nothing at all. Just all in straight interest accounts.
That's correct.
Okay, well, million's great, and I'm happy getting that. Yeah, we did. It came back. Just what would have happened in 2017, John? What would have, could have. Well, exactly. So, but anyway, if there are no further questions on it, all in favor of the motion to receive, and thank you very much. Done. Carried. So the last report then is one regarding part-time student wages. Ms. Orton.
Thank you. As council is aware, the municipality has had a policy regarding part-time and student wages for over 20 years. The policy was initially implemented to standardize these wages throughout the municipal departments. In 2004, the policy was expanded to include provisions relating to the hiring process. In 2012, the then Human Resources Officer compared the part-time and student wages with the wages in other municipalities. As a result of that review, administration made a recommendation to council that part-time and student wages be frozen at the 2012 rates. That freeze lasted for 3 years, which resulted in some part-time and student wages that are below the part-time and student wages offered in neighboring municipalities. Administration has now taken the opportunity to review these part-time and student wages in part to address the provisions of Bill 148, which it requires an increase to the minimum wage to $15 as of January 1st, 2019, but also to ensure that the municipality is in a position to attract and retain part-time and student workers. Part-time and student wages were not part of the market analysis, which was conducted during the formal salary review undertaken this year by the consultant. But as will be discussed, some part-time and student positions were part of that consultant's review required by the Pay Equity Act. The proposed part-time and student wage structure contemplates a single rate for each position rather than a 3 or 4 level approach, which is in place for some positions under the current policy. The use of a single wage for part-time and student positions is an approach consistent with other municipalities' wage structure for part-time and student positions, which typically do not require a great deal of time to learn the job. Schedule A attached to the report sets out the current part-time and student positions and the wages which are proposed for each. Schedule B is the proposed wage for co-op students. The shaded column in each schedule shows the current wages. Part-time and student positions that are subject to the Pay Equity Act were reviewed for compliance with the same, and using the proposed wages as comparators, no pay equity adjustments are required. It is important to note that a large part of the financial impact of this amendment, approximately $44,500 in 2018, would be required in order to comply with the minimum wage requirements of Bill 148. Council will also note, however, that the proposed wages exceed the 2019 minimum wage. This is due to the market review, which indicated to administration that our part-time and student wages are not competitive. Non-competitive wages result in employees finding other employment opportunities, either in the private sector or with other municipalities. Over the last number of years, managers have struggled to hire students who show a commitment to work. Managers also report that employees leave the municipality when they find other, better-paying employment. This places the municipality in a position of not having sufficient student employees for the busy summer months, and the task of recruiting part-time workers can be expensive and time-consuming. The obvious cost to these trends is a reduction in efficiency, but the less obvious is the strain placed on other staff. Based on staffing levels as budgeted for 2018, this policy amendment will result in a $224,000 adjustment to salaries and benefits for this employee group, which is reflected in the 2018 draft budget. So the recommendation is that the pay policy, selection, and compensation for part-time employees be amended by removing Schedules A and B and replacing with Schedules A and B attached to this report.
Thank you very much. Question, Councillor Verbicki.
Mr. Mayor, thanks. Considering we're going to be going through our budgets, what is a 1% increase in our budget valued at? Is it the 224? Pardon?
230,000.
So it's costing us 1% more in our taxes just for the part-time students, for employees. I mean, because all I'm saying is because you heard all the other towns that made the news because they said their taxes are going to go up because of this bill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so this is in there and it's covered.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Worship. I'm just curious, you've got a list of all the different positions. What's an uptown laborer? What? Sorry?
Mr. Sharon.
Mayor Patterson, for the last 2 years, we've budgeted for and hired a specific dedicated body for the Uptown. They work 5 days a week, predominantly Friday through Tuesday, I believe. And that's our responsibility, is keeping the Uptown clean and doing tasks around the Uptown.
Okay. Any other question? Moved by Councillor Jacobs, support by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Motion carries. Matters for approval, we have the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee meeting held October 17th, moved by Councillor Verbicki and seconded by Councillor Dunn. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Motion carries. Matters for approval, but we just did that, sorry. Other matters for consideration, there are none. No closed session. Consideration of bylaws.
Bylaw 90-17, a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers for the provision of animal control services in the municipality of Leamington. Bylaw 91-17 being a bylaw to provide for a new maintenance schedule of assessment for the South Dales Drain in the municipality of Leamington, County of Essex. That only receives first and second reading. Bylaw 92-17 is withdrawn as the report was earlier. Bylaw 93-17 being a bylaw to amend 73-17 being a bylaw to provide for a tariff of fees to be charged in 2018 by the municipality of Leamington. And that bylaw amends a user fee bylaw by adding some engineering and marina fees. And bylaw 94-17 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the municipality of Leamington at its meeting held December 11th, 2017.
Council's wishes. Moved by Councillor Dunn, support by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Motion carries. There were no notices of motion circulated, so we're into open session. Councillor Verbicki.
With the mayor, thanks. Just a little feedback on our soup and salad luncheon held Wednesday at the Portuguese Club for the Cancer. It was very successful. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Giving Spoon soup that was held Saturday and Sunday at the Old St. Joseph's at the bridge. And I'd like to congratulate Bill, Steve, and yes, your wife, Bill, did a lot of work too, and the whole gang there. So it was a good event. So I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I just want to congratulate him on a job well done.
Very good. Councillor Hammond.
Your Worship, thank you. I have 2 or 3 things. First of all, I want to say that my wife and I were fortunate enough on Friday night to go to Cardinal Carter for their danceology. And the students there put on an excellent show, and if you haven't been, you need to go sometime. Along with the students from St. John de Beauf and the students from St. Louis also put on a show. They put a lot of work into it, and it was really a great night. Second to that, I want to wish a happy 90th birthday to one of Leamington's more prominent citizens, Shorty Nicholson, Don Nicholson. Unfortunately, and they had a party planned for Don at the Half Century Club on Saturday, and on Thursday he went into the hospital with a heart attack. So, but it's my understanding he's doing a lot better. So anyway, a shout out to Don Nicholson, Shorty Nicholson, we all know and love him. And thirdly, I want to wish everyone, this will be our last meeting before Christmas, a very Merry Christmas to all of our staff, and thank you for putting up with Bill and everything you do all year. And Merry Christmas to you, everyone. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, yikes. I was wondering if it's possible for council to be apprised of any lawsuits that have been filed against the municipality in the past year. Is that something that we can be brought up on? I mean, it may have to be in camera, but I think it would make us all be aware of things that are going on in the municipality.
Ruth?
Sure, I can prepare a report for January that provides that information. So any litigation that has been commenced. Sure. Yes.
That would be great. Yeah, January's fine. We just need to know what's going on. And I appreciate that. And then further to that, I guess we better do the Merry Christmas business. Wish my fellow colleagues a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. See Councillor Jacobs later on in the month. And also to staff as well. I think it's been a good year. It's been a challenging year. I think some of us have been pushed to our limits and then yanked back again, but it's all part of growing, right? And being better representatives. So anyway, wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and look forward to working together in the coming year.
Cool. Mr. Neufeld.
I just want to remind council and anybody who's watching, administration is looking forward to presenting the draft budget tomorrow morning, starting at 9 o'clock. And we are excited to provide this budget as well, and we're looking forward to working through that and over the course of the next day or day and a half or so.
Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship, I want to also wish everybody, the administration, and all the members of council a very Merry Christmas, and all our constituents. I want to thank all the members, the mayor, deputy mayor, and council for coming out to the Giving Spoon soup luncheon at the bridge. It was a huge success. We had to have at least triple amount of people come out. Over 650 people came out to that event to see the bridge. It's a phenomenal facility, and the stuff they're going to do for the youth resource, it's not just only for the homeless youth in our area, but it's a resource center for all the youth in our area. So that's huge, and they're partnering with everybody, so it's just fabulous. So it was a great turnout, great donations by everybody. God bless them all, and God bless you all for taking it. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. I guess, too, that I wish the best to everyone over the holidays, to administration, staff, their families, and as well as to my fellow councillors. And Ms. Percy here for taking good care of me through the year and keep me honest and straight and arguing over the locations of our papers. But anyway, no, just the very, very best to all. And, you know, again, I have to agree with the Deputy Mayor. We've come through some controversial issues through this year, and you know, some have been painful, but we survived, and I'm looking forward to another good year. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson.
And same from our family. Best wishes to everybody in Leamington. And Bill, yes, you really deserve to take a bow on what you did this weekend over at the bridge. Impressive. Give yourself a pat on the back. You did a fantastic job, buddy.
Yes, we know. Councillor Verbicki.
The Mayor, thanks on behalf of my family, my whole family, my new family. They just arrived now back in Edmonton. They got their 8-hour trek ahead. Merry Christmas. We've already celebrated Christmas with them. Merry Christmas to the staff, my colleagues. It's been great. I've learned a lot. I know we've had some discussions, but it's really opened up my eyes, and it's taken me on a different venture. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Feliz Navidad, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy Ramadan, and Happy whatever's the other one. There's one more. Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. Yeah, why did I forget Hanukkah? Thank you very much. See you next year.
Okay, so let me just real touch on a few things real quick. Thursday, December the 7th, the Deputy Mayor and I attended the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. They had a guest speaker in from, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was extremely entertaining, talked an awful lot about, well, he's really an HR guy, and he had great stories, kept everybody engaged, and the place was full. I was really happy to see that for the Chamber of Commerce, and it was held at the Best Western, and they were wonderful hosts. Already been touched on, so check. It's Giving Spoon, Soup Guru, and the Bridge. Awesome job. And as Mr. Neufeld just said, we'll see you all here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning and see where we can go from there. And for me, Merry Christmas to everyone as well. I can tell you the challenges aren't done yet. There's lots more to come, but we've got an awful lot more positives going on in this municipality than it's ever seen in its history, as far as I'm concerned. And all the staff, thank you all very much for putting up with all of my members of council. Especially Bill. No. Well, with all of us on council anyway, because I know we can, be a little trying at times, but it's been awesome. So we will see everybody tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Bring your pencils and calculators and your angry eyes. Yep. No, I know. It's good. It's a good budget. So, all right. If there's nothing else, no? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Dunn, Councillor Jacobs, all in favor? Carried.